was just more of was on the order that you got.
It's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem.
And,
But yeah, like with that, we could just say, if you just told one of us nothing to report,
Yeah.
we could just report that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what, okay.
Okay.
And then we'll take his name off. He was just on there because of last.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But
I
honestly,
get that.
but I think I'm usually intentional about letting you know to catch those things, but it has been, I mean, it was at 10:30 last night, and so sorry. We've been running ragged. Okay, good. Good, okay. I don't like to make mistakes. It bothers me. Oh, yeah. Let's focus on that instead. Yeah.
Right, your co-host, so you can.
Yeah.
You got it. So we have,
Hi, Amy.
Keep in mind, these microphones with the air conditioner, you gotta really speak at it. Okay.
I don't know.
thank you.
Oh, so much for a short.
Hey, nice to see you. Thank you. I'm congratulating you, right? Did you have students that graduated? See, I never had them. One, and then you still have
Okay.
who's going to
I
be
did not. Yeah.
junior.
And it's prepared.
No. Congratulations.
Too much, too
I'm with
many
you.
things going on. And then Peter took notes and they're impossible for me to decipher.
Miss Kayla, did you get an email? You want to double check the next year?
Yes,
Just want to make sure it was received.
it was.
Oh, yeah.
Some stuff open.
Just so you guys know, I did not get typed up, so I'm gonna have to do from the last meeting.
Oh, because somebody else.
Yeah, but I still have to get them together by, and this just being a short 3 weeks
Yes.
is going on. I just,
Okay, so what do we do about that?
well, when it comes up, I'll just say, I don't have a minute prepared yet, but I think we're doing an organizational meeting in July.
Yeah, that's part of the agenda is to vote on a date for us to meet for the
So
organization.
we could just vote.
Okay,
at
Okay.
that meeting.
sure.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, it's a delay.
Yeah.
Is that missing? Or it's like on the-
A little
Oh,
disconcerting.
no, yeah, I mean, I think that in my 3 years, I've only been twice. Not, except for remote, obviously. I'm wiped, I'm wiped out, and when I
Yeah,
get
it's like-
really wiped out.
I think you can.
Oh, yeah, and it's just been a lot, been emotional and physical. I was up till 2:30 in the morning, I just,
Just like now, or doing waiting.
yeah, I just couldn't settle. I know, a lot of those things I just couldn't settle. I just couldn't. My mind was racing. It was, last night are never easy. They're never easy.
Oh,
It's hard.
no,
It's emotional.
Yeah.
Well, for everybody. Yeah, you never like to, it just,
Was it Ignatius yesterday?
why is that pop up? What's going on? Everything's okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe, okay, go ahead. Oh.
So. So it's.
A little vulnerable.
That's what it was.
I'm sorry.
The delayed stream.
I know it is. I know. Everything. 94 and thank goodness there's no Cubs game or you never would have made it. Exactly. Hi, everyone.
Look, I just saw you.
I know. I hate coming late, drives me insane. Then.
What? Interstate? Interstate.
Well, I'm Friday, the day after the last. We have Thursday and then staff doesn't have to be here on Friday. I'm getting in the car and driving down San Francisco. So we'll be there, and then I'm flying the kids in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the island is wiped out. There'll be nobody there. It'll be a little eerie. No, I was late. Because all of the resorts are. They're. Oh, yeah. Half of them are open. Either. And there's a couple of food spots.
Okay.
There's just this resiliency. But nobody, like my sisters have been down there and there's nobody on there. I mean, seriously. Oh. So, and that's just. It's kind of like COVID. COVID. There were people at least there that were. Well, you know, it's interesting because it was right. What's his name?
Yeah.
For governor. So the bridge.
Okay.
Peter?
Sorry, everyone, for
Yeah.
the delay. I appreciate you guys coming.
You need one?
Let's call this to order. Let's do roll call. Where are your friends? Oh, wait, I didn't even get to say goodbye.
I just saw Alexis too, and she said she might, but I guess not. She decided not to.
Can you tell them to like come for 5 minutes at the beginning? Seriously.
But only if she's near,
Yeah.
or she could jump on, maybe jump on the Zoom.
They need to song.
Oh, okay, they have to come. They have to come.
For a moment. In time.
For a moment. Okay, let's do roll call. Jane, here. Mr. Ketchler,
Here.
Ms. Kaler,
Here.
Mr. Chalmers,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
me, Mr. Steinmiller,
Here.
Mr. Hernandez. Here. Ms. Zemnick.
Here.
I think Sonia Brown.
Mr. Cottons and Ms. Brown are virtual.
Okay.
We need to vote them in.
Yes, we do. I make a motion to let Mr. Cottons and Ms. Brown join virtually.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. Okay, I would like, before we go to public participation, I would like to make an amendment to the agenda. I would like to move the PPC in front of number 4.
Can I say something as well? Unless Mr. Cottons, I'm only going to be here till 5. Maybe we'll be able to get PPLC. My child has their graduation dinner. I don't know if we want to make a motion for the PPLC to go up, but I'm sure Mr. Cottons can. We don't have to do that.
Let's just
Yeah.
move it both. Let's just move it both.
Okay.
Okay, so we're moving 10A and 10B to 3.5.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that's my
We
motion.
have to, right.
Also,
All in favor? Okay, great.
Aye.
Okay, public participation. I'm sure everyone knows the rules by now, but we need you to speak into the mic. We need you to introduce yourself, and we need you to be respectful of confidentiality and privacy and just in general. And that's it. Anybody here for public participation? Anybody online?
Reviewing. Nobody online?
All right. Wow. Okay.
Hey, Jane, is your mom coming? She's what?
Okay. Last call for public
At
participation.
some point, yeah. Be nice, thank you.
Okay, let's go to the LSC Budget Subcommittee. Mr. Kessler.
No further updates compared to last week unless Dr. Semmler is prepared to.
Budget.
The budget subcommittee, wait,
You're right. I can run through right
Oh,
now.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
3.5 was-
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Let's approve the minutes first.
I did not get
So-
prepare the minutes.
so
I'm
Ted's
gonna
slacking.
defer- Yes, we'll defer that to the.
Okay, is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so now we have PPLC and PPC updates.
That was fast. Oh, you would, yeah, you could, that would be, thanks a lot, Paul. Yeah, right.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Gray.
Now we'll perform a duet.
Cue the music.
And now we'll perform a duet. Which everyone will regret.
All right, our meeting in May was relatively short, focused primarily on the schedule vote for next year. We conducted the assessment vote a few weeks ago. So the two main issues on the agenda for the PPC meeting in May were the schedule vote, and then also trying to set time aside for a couple staff members to come in over the summer and work on a crisis intervention plan. It's our understanding that that's good. So we're good to go. There are two staff members who've been approved to come in for a few weeks over the summer, right at the end, right after the school year ends, to work on developing a more intentional crisis intervention plan. The schedule vote was also the other thing that we talked about in our meeting. We conducted that assessment or that schedule vote yesterday. The schedule for next year will be the same as it was for this year. So shorter Wednesdays for students every week. Staff members will attend after-school professional development on a set number of Wednesdays after school throughout the year.
Think of anything else?
We have our final PPC meeting next week, bright and early on, what is that, the 8th? And I think it'll also be short and sweet. Like our presentation.
That's all we have to report from the last meeting. If there are any questions, we're happy to answer them. Otherwise,
Any
stick to the
questions,
minutes.
anybody?
Can you share the vote? Was it a?
Yes,
close
I
vote?
can. It was not.
Nope.
So without getting into some of the vote itself is a little bit complicated, but for all intents and purposes, there were two options available for the schedule. One was a straight 50-minute class period every day of the week. The other option was, as we just described, the short Wednesday schedule for students. Staff members voted in favor of the short Wednesday schedule, 87-3.
Period where it's a little longer.
There is not this year. We did pull the staff, not yesterday, but the week before at the meeting where the presentation went out, to work next year over the course of the year, to propose some possible alternative health schedules. But we had time constraints with reporting this these details back to the union, meaning they needed our vote tomorrow. And it just wasn't enough time to thoughtfully put forward a good plan for alternative. So is there perhaps I don't know if this would be the recommendation, but I know the communication committee got was frustration. So I don't know if I'm overstepping like what.
I mean,
role is
I'll-
what,
As
but-
a PPC, communication came out from CPS and CTU about the process, and we quickly got things moving as soon as we could. If there is a schedule that is outside of those, it requires, I have to go to CPS, I have to go to CTU, it goes getting approval process. And on last Wednesday, we had a presentation, Rick did a fantastic job of presenting to everybody about what those options, if then kind of flow chart. And there was also a survey that they both put out, or all the PPC put out, asking like, are we interested in these different things? So it is really gauging a variety of options going into next year that can then be referred to PPLC, ILC, different groups to be able to really plan that.
And we'll look at the survey next week. It was actually very well answered. We got a lot of data feedback.
And we've identified, I can't remember the exact number, but one of the questions we asked on there was for staff members to express interest in being a part of I hesitate to use the word committee, that sounds too official, but yeah, in intentional schedule planning for the following.
With more time. I mean, it's really a conversation that needs to happen probably at the start of the school year, but minimally by the end of first.
So Grace, who's responsible for that? Because we were getting mixed messages as a PPLC. And in our last meeting, we voted for an advisory and discussed that at length. And within that is a model or an option that you can make the announcements,
During that period.
during that period. Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of different models, so I don't need to go into that. But it was, I think, frustrating on our part that all of a sudden, it was just presented. And I was asking the union back in February in the notes of how this played out, and we were not given clear direction. So what is the process?
Yeah, so we received some clarity on that. The process moving forward. So there's a very specific process once CPS and CTU release the guidance, which is typically fairly late. That specific process is that the PPC meets and discusses options that are available when we have that meeting, and then selects the options, one or two options that we present to the staff. Those are presented to the staff as soon as possible, and a vote is held within 48 hours of that, or after 48 hours of that presentation. So the guidance that we've sort of received recently is that the planning for those schedules can occur throughout the school year.
Mhm.
The schedules themselves, it appears, don't quote me on this, but my understanding is that the schedules can be submitted to CTU in advance of their strategic bargaining. And they can at least give us some sort of tentative feedback so that when they do arrive at that conclusion in next May or whatever it is, we've already, dotted the i's and crossed the t's, and we can move forward with the intentional schedule that was created throughout the school year.
And the PPLC, I think the PPLC, as far as I know, can just bring it up at least in conversation and make those recommendations. Do we make those recommendations to Dr. Steinmiller? Or do we make those recommendations to PPC? Because I don't think that's part of the.
So the PPC discusses all the options that are available.
Okay.
I would say that the PPLC should make the recommendations to Dr. Steinmiller. That said, anyone can bring us schedules to any member of the PPC, and we can also discuss those. But I think the best process, not being a part of PPLC and not being as familiar with it, but I would assume that the best process would be for, if you have a recommendation, to make it to the principal.
And since it has to go two direction, I mean, so it has to go to me, but also has to go to because if the union doesn't agree to them, it can't move forward. So I was a PPC because I am a member of this. It's really a 4-person commit group, union, CPS representative, as from his principal. And so if anything has to change, it has to get approved by both groups first. So I think for us to move forward with any recommendation, present it directly to the PPC because it's an agenda item that then they can respond to, I respond to, and we can then send it the right direction. I think that'll be a good pathway to help move it.
We have made notes for next year to start bringing up those conversations with stakeholders as early as possible, so we can try to elicit that feedback and make that process a little bit smoother.
Thanks. And it's also part of why we're trying to come to these meetings to keep those doors open and the communication flowing. And we can, when we look at the results of the survey, and I think who's interested in that conversation, we can also loop the PPLC in on that. So we start in the fall with, the ball rolling.
Thanks. Ms. Dragonetti, can we rewind to when you were talking about the vote? It was the process shortened? I sense some frustration.
Well, we had a
For
tight
rush?
turnaround. We had to submit the results, by tomorrow, and ours are submitted on time. The decision, there wasn't any frustration.
Okay,
so
good.
don't sense that.
Okay, good.
But it was too close of a turnaround time to have a productive conversation involving the entire staff on alternative models for the bell schedule to put forward, get real meaningful feedback, and then present them with only 2 options in a vote. We can't say here are 5 options. Let's see how it shakes out. We have to narrow it down to 2, and only 2 can be put forward.
Why is that?
The rules.
And that was
It's a contractual. So I think that my understanding is that the union's position is that they have negotiated specific numbers and minutes for students and minutes for staff members and that sort of thing very intentionally, and want to make sure that staff members are voting on things that are carefully thought out, right? So the contractual constraint that we were under is that these options have to be presented to staff on the clock 48 hours at least before the vote. And so we have to have our PPC meeting to discuss those options. And then we have to meet with staff. And then it has to be 48 hours before the vote. And they didn't release that guidance until
May 11th.
May 11th.
So I got a May 11th. So we had a less than a 2-week turnaround, have the
With
presentation.
holiday week, there was a holiday there, which made the turnaround time hard.
Graduation.
And if we were to create something unique to the 5 proposed schedules, then that has to be sent out first for approval, and then all those 48-hour windows come into play.
Okay, thank you.
Wow. Okay. Okay, anybody else? Thank you very much.
I have one, anything for us, anything you'd like us to think about, just recommend? We have the summer coming up, like anything? And the answer could be no, but I just thought I'd ask, is there anything we can do to be supportive?
We have our final PPC meeting next week on Thursday. I think part of the conversation we'll have in that final PPC meeting is some planning for next year, things that maybe staff members have wanted to see some discussion about. I think that maybe after we have that conversation, if there is anything that we collectively feel like the LSC might be able to help with or kept informed of, I think we're happy to reach out at that point.
It sounds like we'll be on the agenda moving forward, so.
Yes, and we're
Just not parenthetical, Mr.
Just
Drake.
not in parentheses. Excuse my typo, Mr. Drake.
yes, and if you don't have anything to report out, just tell the teacher representatives and they'll just say, we're good there and we're moving on.
We
So you
like
don't
to
have
talk. We probably will.
It is.
And we're happy to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you very much. No, we can't. I'm so sorry.
You said anybody?
My mistake. You can talk during public participation at the end. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
yep.
PPLC. Our last meeting of the PPLC will be this Monday, and I don't even have a proposed agenda yet, but what we did talk about in our last PPLC meeting, really what took up the most time was inviting department chairs to our meeting for the goal and purpose of trying to move forward in a harmonious way that both of us as groups are coming together to discuss moving our school forward. And we had some questions for them, and they had some questions for us, but mostly the PPLC had questions. And I'm going to refer to them as the ILT because that was mostly where the direction of our questioning was geared towards was, do you feel as a department, and not all the department chairs were present, it was a handful of them, that the work that you have been doing has been intentional, and as department chairs and as an ILT, you can certainly look through the notes. I think for the people that were there, many of them say that the work that they're doing with their departments is moving forward, but what happens at these meetings during the week is not. And really our conclusion was, or the conclusion, and Ms. Patel put this forward, that we can probably at our next Monday meeting put forward a recommendation that the ILT is more voluntary, as we used to do it after school, that there's more representation. I think that the staff gets fussy a bit. I think that only a small group of individuals are representing our entire staff in terms of an ILT, an instructional leadership team, and more voices want to be included. And it, as I said, those department chairs that were present agreed. So we're going to put forward a recommendation that the ILT is more voluntary and more inclusive, and just see what that looks like. Again, it's only a recommendation. Dr. Steinmiller has the final, his position is final. We had, and that took up most of the discussion. We're a little concerned about the CIWP and the lack from our perspective of it moving forward. We still, other than what I reported out last time, there haven't been any meetings that the PPLC members have been a part of. And the PPLC is broken up into each one of those subcommittees. I know Dr. Steinmiller is going to report out on that, so he might have more information. There were 3 motions on the table, and I'll just tell you what those are, and then we'll move on. So the 3 motions on the table, and they passed 2 unanimously. One, what is it when you don't? You abstain. There was 1 abstention on one of them. A motion for Dr. Steinmiller to give PPLC a dollar amount, including but not limited to what buckets are available for PPLC in terms of the budget to give input on. Hope that makes sense. And that was a unanimous vote, but 1. The second was motion on the table for a recommendation for advisory. This is, after the fact in PPLC. I think that there was confusion for all of us of how a schedule moves forward, or modeling for Bell's schedule. So we in the PPLC made a recommendation for an advisory. That would be 1 day a week where students for 4 years from 9th to 12th grades are tracked, almost like a division, that are tracked within an advisory with that same teacher. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that. We used to have it, and I feel it was great. Once a week. But again, I won't go into any more. And we did vote for that recommendation, but it couldn't happen. We also voted that. So anyway, that's a moot point.
And then why couldn't it happen? Got it.
Yeah, I think I had been reaching out, honestly, with Union and PPC, wondering how this process goes. And I was under the impression, and I think Dave would probably agree with me, that the PPLC had no voice on it. And so I think I let that die then, really, in the PPLC. And then it looks like that's not the case. So I think moving forward to be far more intentional, as Paul and Grace said. Dave, do you want to add to that?
Well, first of all, everyone can hear me, yes?
Mr. Cox. Yeah, hold on 1 second.
Can everyone hear me or no?
If I said anything that you disagree with, let me know.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if you can hear me.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, in our April meeting, we had someone come into a PPLC meeting and during public participation, ask about looking into advisory and how that mixes in with other schedules. So that not being an agenda item in our April meeting, we put it on there as something to discuss in May. And then you can hear the already previously mentioned transgressions or whatever you want to call them about just the difficulty of figuring out who was supposed to be doing what, as well as the tight turnaround. So I would like to have a more controlled input and more contributions to the schedule and stuff like that. But at this point, that's a next year thing.
right. The third motion. Are you good? Can I keep going? Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The third motion on the table that was passed unanimously was for a schedule that includes minutes built in for announcements. So academic learning is not compromised. An amendment to that was if we have advisory, announcements should be made once a week during advisory time. And I think we can talk, most of the announcements each day are not, I don't know. That's not for me to say, but I think we all agreed that the time for the announcements can be better served somehow. It's just not, it's not standardized. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 1 minute. So we can certainly talk about that in the PPLC this Monday, even though we don't have an advisory, we can make a motion or a suggestion for how announcements should play out in the next school year. Okay. Yeah.
Just really quickly, I'd like to also add Ms. Gluns, who has somehow been charged with spearheading the organization and implementation of the announcements, did send out a survey to staff as far as asking when would they prefer it, any other comments, what class period, whether it should be at the beginning or the end. So I think there is, at least in the building, an understanding that we would like to sort of all together as a staff figure out something that's working better. And I applaud her for putting out a survey to try and get people's input. So I highly encourage all staff members to do that if they feel any kind of way about the announcements.
Thanks. Sorry. Okay, I'm done, Dave. If you have anything else that you want to wrap up that you
Nope.
feel was important that we covered.
Yeah, no, I think everything PPLC wise was covered. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're moving on to budget subcommittee.
Misspoke earlier, so we will go through some.
I was like, I saw stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were shared with the LSC 2 days ago by Ms. Lopez, so that is an improvement to the process so that everyone can start exploring if you've got time available. Ideally, it becomes part of practice that you take a look.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry about that. So Ms. Lopez did share it with the LSC on May 30th, just our ongoing spreadsheet. And so you don't need it to be shared every time because Ms. Lopez does work on it fairly regularly, at least once a month, so that it's updated. And one thing that on specific pages, that if the numbers are up to date, there's a date at the top left of the page that says the last time it was updated. So this was last updated May 30th.
If Dr. Steinmiller has it relatively handy, if you can put it up on the big screen.
Is this something the PPLC can access at all times as well? So
Yeah,
it's not.
yeah, it's a
okay.
link that Ms. Kaler and Mr. Cottons has.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I want to say I did not receive anything from Ms. Lopez on May 30th or.
Okay.
I did, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's not this.
Let me look. I'll just
Yeah.
send it right now.
Okay.
She maybe just send it to the budget committee. I wonder.
Might have. There's a significant number of LSC representatives on the budget committee, and so that might have been where my confusion was.
That
That,
is, that's what happened.
yeah. Okay. So, all
We
right.
can make sure she sends it to the LSC at whole one, so everybody has access to it. It does have, I would just say, make sure that it does have like all the financial matters and everything in it, so please keep that in. Those are some in-house documents to a point. They're public in some of our meetings,
Yeah.
but
I know. I'm
just in case there is ever personnel lines and things like that, we want to avoid that.
Okay, I sent it.
okay. Thank you. And so now, yeah, in practice, and well, now you all know that you have access to that link. And so, yes, yeah. And like again, I'm not as concerned about the sharing information because there isn't any personnel numbers in here. It at worst case scenario, though, it's all public, is that, if we have like elements of what somebody paid for something, it's just easier to see. Right. So again, I'm not concerned about it. It's just, I wouldn't necessarily post it online because let's just be prepared to answer questions if we're posting it so publicly. We just have to make sure we're doing it with proper FAQs and things like that. So Dr. Steinmiller, if you're able to put it on, we'll take a look quickly. If you can go first to rental income when you pull it up, Dr. Steinmiller.
Cool.
Can you go over to rental income first?
Oh, that's backwards.
Great. And then can you scroll over to column Q? All right. Yeah, I know it's extra large size right now, which helps for viewing, but tough to scroll. Yeah. So if you scroll down the highlighted section, you see if you go a little bit farther up, there's 18,500 that's remaining from our Chicago Parking Solutions lot for this year. So it is a 2-year agreement with Chicago Parking Lot Solutions. The total amount over the 2 years is $88,800. Although we're in year 1 and it gets paid in pieces. So there's 18,500 of the year 1 allotment remaining. The other highlighted area of dollars amount for our rental income is when we rent out certain spaces in the building. So again, whether it's like the outside area or whether it's for Chicago Sport and Social, Chicago Sport, that's a very large, rental usage agreement. So what's remaining is $37,855. So that's the state of where the rental income comes in. And then if you go over to flexible funding, Dr. Steinmiller. So on the internal accounts, which is, vast majority of it is driven by student fees. So that's why student fees is the line here. That has $19,283.57 remaining. So it's gotten very low. Again, that's separate than the rental income. I know each time I'm going to keep on bringing these things up so we get more socialized with looking at them. The dollars then that are specific to certain grants that again are outside of the internal account, again, that are internal accounts at the top. The grants below it have specific budget line items. That's all those numbers that are underneath it. So if you see OST funds has the 9,281 and 91 cents left. That is the purpose of that is to spend it down, obviously on allowable expenses for clubs. We don't get those dollars back, is my understanding, right? Dr. Steinmiller is confirming. Well, sorry.
OST, we've already applied for it again. Well, even more than we have this year. So we've applied for over $300,000, nearly $100,000 for the summer. So we'll, in short, have almost $500,000 worth of OST funds over the course.
Yep. So like these dollars, when I say that, and thanks for correcting me, Dr. Steinmiller, these don't roll over these existing dollars.
There'll be a summer chunk for summer like clubs, activities, and engagement activities. So giving students things to do and participate over the course of the summer. And then that goes to August 4th. And then after that, we'll kick in the fall number. That's where we're exceeding over $300,000 and leading in the Perkin Pelly district and usage of those funds.
Who's planning the over the summer OST? Is that
Ms.
Miss?
Sepulveda, as our community rep liaison, that's her sole responsibility for that's engagement, partnerships. It aligns with her work.
Okay. If you're able to go over now to budget transfers, I just wanted to orient people to this, and it's my understanding that these dollar amounts we're about to approve are already taken into account inside of the budgets we just talked about. So again, I just wanted to orient people to what's left after these budget transfers have been taken into place. If we just go to larger areas, you'll see that there's $12,609.71 transfer from the grant funds to a supply line to open POs for OST clubs. So that's part of that spend down. If there are specific questions about the usage of those dollars, I know Dr. Steinmiller can answer those. If you go further down, I'm just starting to do some of the larger ones. The top line is for dance club. The history fair that we talked about in the last LSC meeting or so has 2 line items here, equaling over $3,000 for expenses in relation to traveling to the history fair, the nationals. There's a $5,000 purchase for testing tables. That's something that there's been questions from the LSC at times to Dr. Steinmiller about how much it costs to rent. And so the rental costs, which generally can go $1,000 to $2,000 or more per event. Now Dr. Steinmiller has made the purchase, wants to make the purchase of $5,000 for tables. And I believe Dr. Steinmiller said there were about 100 tables that were included in it. It should be a decent cost savings for us. I will reference again that the dollars that we're using here, they need to be spent down. So there's a goal to make sure we're spending them on areas that are going to help us into the future. Other significant dollar amount listed here is a $10,000 for engineers OT. So there's a fee that we charge for the space rental. It's $150, right?
Includes engineer and custodial support during rentals, and part of our contract is ultimately to pay people to do that. We're required to have them.
So then we actually get an invoice, and then we pay the invoice when we receive it with the dollars that we have from the $150 per rental, day. Then the other large dollar amount that's over $1,000 that I'm just going to highlight here for the sake of trying to be succinct is $1,608.49. What Dr. Steinmiller is trying to do is replace chairs, stools inside the science department. So that gets us, I know, Dr. Steinmiller, you can walk us through how many chairs, but I just want to highlight something that Dr. Steinmiller has been navigating is with the warehouse that also houses a lot of leftover furniture. And so Dr. Steinmiller, if you can highlight kind of what you've been navigating and getting from the warehouse, and then also the purchase here.
Yeah, we have 200 student desks coming from the warehouse, as well as 10 ADA compliant desks. We have a number of students who have they utilize wheelchairs. It just makes it where they have more accessible desks in the classroom. But we already have a couple, and so by having 10, we're able to accommodate more students and get into all their academic classrooms. Ultimately, up to 3 students. There were some stools, but they're the same type and quality that we have, and the welds on them they broke almost within the first couple of days. They're just not very good. So we just need to buy the quality kind that will last a long period of time. That's why we're investing in those. And this is a class set, I believe, of 34, 36 stools.
I have a question real quick about that. Do we have enough ADA compliant desks for if a student is in an accident or has a major injury for every class, for that student to be in every class and have an ADA compliant desk?
We have several students who do utilize wheelchairs. We accommodate in different ways. These are more ideal. Like, these are adjustable heights. I can't answer that directly. Like, do we have enough of those specific desks? Probably not. This is a movement in the right direction, but we're able to facilitate in other ways or use normal tables. But these are more desk designs, so they're not as, we can put a folding table in and it'll work, but those are just better.
And when we get stuff in warehouse, we have to pay.
No,
Okay, great.
free.
Is that not a requirement that CPS provides ADA compliant?
Unless it's in their IEP about a specific device and it's approved by Chicago Public Schools, it is not provided.
So you're doing this above and beyond
Correct.
to make it.
We've allocated, like, for example, and we have to protect it sometimes. We have multiple floors, and we, on the top floor of every one of our buildings is a way to, in an emergency, when you can't use an elevator, to get our students down. We've made sure that we had some old ones that weren't good, so we brought in new ones. So all three. Well, some schools don't have any. And so they're like, well, you have three, we want one of yours. No, we worked to get these in place. That's not how this works. And so we have those in place. We have,
I didn't hear what that was.
it's like, it's basically a way to take somebody who is not able to walk down the stairs, basically downstairs. We had our security guards trained on how to use it in case of an emergency. So we've been trying to do these kind of things to be proactive to support our students. It is not ideal, and there are not enough supports. But we are working to do that independently as a school.
I have a question.
I just move, I can't see the numbers, the dollar amounts are covered by the name.
Oh, that's weird because I don't. This is the vet. So
Fine.
Yes.
Hi,
And then Mr. Cotton.
Dave. Oh, no, you okay. The motion that we made a couple of months ago in the PPLC concerning a library line. Is anything happening? Okay, so number one, library, and then let me just jump on that. I know that the librarian, or it was in our newsletter, I don't know where it was, that the librarian is hiring students to come in to, so I'm wondering where that money is coming from. If it's coming out of our budget, is that something that we have to approve? Okay, and so, well, so let's follow up on that. Is the library not getting any money?
yeah, the cost for, we're looking at some alternatives and trying to partner with the warehouse on more ADA compliant shelving. We don't have, it's nearly $30,000 to be able to replace all of our bookshelves. We are trying to utilize our lower shelves, different things for the meanwhile. So there is a level of accessibility, just not the one that we would like. So this is something that we're paying attention. We don't have that type of money this year to be able to do
So
it.
she doesn't get anything for books or anything,
Not this year. We just don't have the funds.
or
for it.
last year. So she hasn't gotten anything then for 2 years.
Yeah, so we don't, what we have been able to do with OST funds, the students are coming in. So part of OST gives students summer jobs. They can come in and do different activities, freshman connect, like different things. That's a different money set, freshman connection. So we have money coming in to do freshman connection where students are getting paid to support it. Teachers and other people. We have other sources coming in for OST. So the students working with her in the library are being paid through out of school time funds to be able to help support it. So we're utilizing that. So we try to do different things to bring students in, different work opportunities.
Do you know what they need to do in the library that we need to use OST funds for that in particular?
Organize it and also get some of the archaic books out that are just aren't like, there's, what I'm making this up, but like 10 sets of the encyclopedias just aren't the same anymore when you can, everything's digital. So it'd be better to have books that our students are accessing or interested in. I'm very proud of the display when you walk in of the banned books that are banned nationwide that are not banned at our library. So those are things that allow us to expand on that as well.
Okay, Mr. Cotton, are you done?
Particularly.
Mr. Cottons has a question.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand or gain clarity, I guess, on like if a new class set of textbooks need to be ordered or something like that, like if the IB puts out a new version of a book or whatever. Just trying to understand where something like that comes from as far as Is it the rental income, or is it the OST funds, or are a lot of these things that we were looking at earlier essentially all just like income resources into the same bucket that can be paid for these kinds of things? I was just trying to understand that.
Yeah, when it comes to like textbooks specifically, traditionally you could use student fees for that. That would be one of our main sources for it. We don't have that. We have to look at all different options. If it's something that is urgent, such as a totally new text, then we would look at some of our rental options for it. If it's something, I'd like to get to a point where we have financial stability within our internal accounts so that we can then rotate departments on being able to make purchases on a regular basis. We're not there yet, but that's where I'd like for us to get. Something we can get to in the future. We have to start, and we've talked about this and we will continue. We have to balance out our transportation needs. You still see even here, numerous transportation, it's just, we have to find a better way to use our funds.
I also just want to highlight one other tool inside the spreadsheet. If you go over really quickly, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here, some of those other questions, but the fund summary for non-payroll, so the tab all the way to the left.
Good.
This is really when we talk about the budget that's non-personnel. These are really the areas and the categories. We just have to get more accustomed as an LSC to reviewing this, and then also being in conversation with the budget subcommittee and the LSC about what are the planned uses for dollars. When there's dollars remaining at this time of year is when you start seeing even more of these transfer lines, because there's dollar amounts, left over here. And if they're flexible for moving, which a lot of the budget line items are, then they get moved because we don't need the dollars. Like if it's a benefits pointer line that was overfunded, then it's able to go in, for $1,000 here to purchase this, et cetera. Otherwise we lose the money.
And not all these.
Yeah.
So so just to clarify, these are coming from multiple sources. So the 115, which is our student-based budgeting, those are the ones in which we have to be aware of because they will disappear. You can see it. There's different terminologies for where the funding is coming from. A 576, 575s. You don't really need to know that, but it breaks it down into the account number, and we know where that's the coding for where all this money goes. Usually it's salary and benefits. So when we have to trail it somewhere else, you take it out of, let me see if I can go over. Like here you can see 115, those we need to spend out because those go into this specific program account, goes into this program. This is like the grant summary. So 575, 576 are specific grant. So those we do want to spend out, but then we do have some that are coming from different areas that do roll over. And so we don't have to spend those down. This is what happens when, and usually within that last month, in which either a benefit or a pointer or a benefit or a teacher salary, for some reason, there's money available in the end and it drops. And that's why I always talk about money dropping. It falls from that account, from that program, from that grant. So that's really kind of like, let's just say, I'm making this up, but not meaning this. Let's just say 5305 is our math teacher. So it's a math teacher bucket going into then this specific grant. That's kind of how that works. You don't need to know it, but that's something that Ms. Lopez, our business accountant, and I have to pay attention to because we have to watch for those because it drops in. You get the GLE, you get the expenditure report. I give it to you that's like what? Sheet after sheet after sheet. Those are all the little numbers that we have to pay attention to. And so all of a sudden you'll have $80 that drops. Well, I'm not giving $80 back to the board. So we have to move that somewhere. And so that's where all this movement happens over hundreds of lines like this. And so we're trying to simplify this in the template that makes sense. And I think she was.
I have a question, Sandy, for you about the librarian.
Yeah.
Can you refresh my memory? What is it that she did she want more books?
Yes,
Okay. Does she have a list of books that she would like?
she did.
So can we put that out to the community and see if there's donation
Okay.
options available for that?
I think so, sure. I think she had, remember so long ago, but she had said that she was promised, a certain amount of money, and she did all of the ordering and looking up, not ordering, she couldn't, but I think she came up with all of the books and what they would cost, and then it didn't follow through. And that was last year. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll reach out.
So should I who should I have her?
Have her reach out to me and let's
you.
figure out a way that we can get it out to the community, maybe
Friends of.
friends of, maybe.
Right.
maybe
Or
just people who want to,
have the list of books and people can go on and buy a couple and then, and
Yeah,
have them
through
sent.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Wish list.
Yes.
Wish list,
I
yeah.
think that's a great idea.
We should just take a look back at the list in general. So if you can share it back with the LSC, because especially if there's like, if we can't afford the entire list that was provided with the shelving and whatnot, but I've got to imagine we can afford some parts. Yeah, some parts of it with what's remaining.
I think the shelving was just another part of it, but she did have all of the list of books. She was pretty frustrated because it was a tireless list, I think.
It was,
Or-
well,
It was just such a lot of work.
let's
Yeah,
make it happen. I mean, that shouldn't, I can't imagine that's super
Yeah.
hard to do.
I'll do that tomorrow. The one thing I wanted to ask Dr. Steinmiller, I guess maybe I don't understand it, but I remember that each year our department chair would give us debt slips that we would fill out for the students that didn't return their books for that year. And that was put on to their debt and they could not graduate or get their diploma until that debt was fulfilled. So Ms. Lopez and I were reaching out to the administration about this because not everybody has textbooks. For example, in IB, we use packets of historians. So most texts that we get a barcode on it. So when a student gets it, the librarian or teacher will put that right into, scan it. It goes into their, right. And then the student has to return it. And if they don't, then they have $150, book that they have to account for at the end of the year. I guess I was a little frustrated that admin didn't get back with some sort of plan in place because that's money that we can recover that can go perhaps to textbooks. So I guess my first question is maybe why didn't somebody come back to us? Maybe you didn't think that that was important enough. And two, Ms. Lopez and I did come up with a plan. I shared it with department chairs. Was there following through the department chairs shared? And those students that were told to pay a debt, was that debt, did they pay that debt? And where does that money go?
So it's the same, this checkout process for books, hasn't changed. If you scan it out, scan it in. You don't scan it, then you can reconcile it after the fact. And that can be added later. You can't stop. You cannot withhold a diploma. You cannot withhold any of that information if fees aren't paid. We're not allowed to. It's against policy. We try to push to get any of the fees possible. And I know I've been reaching out on a regular basis to families and working and coordinating with some families on plans for anything that's been submitted, but it should just be the same checkout process that everybody has.
Well, not everybody has that checkout process is what I was saying. So, for my class, it could be $200, but we don't have barcodes on it. They don't have to pay
At the beginning of the year, we would have to have that structured because if it wasn't scanned out, like I know Miss, there are certain books that have been scanned in and scanned out.
Yeah.
If we don't have that, if that hasn't been, it's too late unless there's a number or like you checked out which specific, I'm making a calculator or whatever it may be. If it's at this point, wasn't that process from the start for that specific teacher in class, and there's no way for us to monitor.
No, we did it.
Okay.
We did do it.
Let me follow up with you after.
But where does that money go? And so what you're saying is nobody has to pay a fee?
You do have to pay a fee, but we can't withhold a diploma from anybody.
What happens to that fee?
You ask people to pay for it, and most people do.
Yeah.
Or we work out plans.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
but again,
Okay.
we as a institution cannot withhold a student's diploma.
Okay.
We don't.
I know I'm
in
getting.
public. We don't go into meetings. But
Where does that money go then? For
it would
that?
go into our internal accounts.
Okay.
Yeah, it would go in internal accounts and it would show up in the line item that references student fees. Because that's like where, yeah, well, just because that's the largest quantity of dollars that sit in internal accounts. So that's why that line is written as such. Yeah, yeah. Right. And if something like, I know we talked about it a bit last school year on the LSC, but that the internal accounts for a long time had just like dozens and dozens of lines on it from like a field trip that might have had an overage from 7 years ago that listed, $12 remaining and, $1.50 here from, and so it ends up becoming this like big laundry list. And what I know that there was in the past, there'd be more like cash collected for things like that, which isn't thought highly on anymore and allowed. And so that internal accounts just becomes this beast of trying to move these little things around. I know that like Miss Lopez has commented, in the past that like when a rainy day would come, she would continue to try to move things around in internal accounts. We know that there's not a whole lot of downtime in this school for doing things. And so, right. Oh no, yeah. Miss Lopez is wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We appreciate
Yeah.
her so much.
Yeah.
Totally.
She's turned things around.
Yep. she
She's
really has.
she's absolutely wonderful. And
We
so
were in
like
bad shape.
those, oh yeah,
I will.
But,
accept her.
that the internal accounts is still, it's why like I'm going to continue to work, especially over the summer when we go into next school year. You can tell there's dollar amounts that ebb and flow throughout the year that create more flexibility for us as an LSC for how we spend. It's just like we end up being very reactive because of the timing of certain movements. And like I'm just hopeful that the budget subcommittee, we can put some like mind share to this to figure out like how we are prepared for if those if moments. And we prioritize in those if moments how to spend those dollars. But again, that'd be new for our LSC, which is something that we'll work on over the summer.
Can we go back? And I want to make sure that there's going to be no issues with the guitar grant. I just want to make sure. I saw something. I have a question about it.
The guitar?
Guitar.
Cutter.
Oh, the guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, not.
I'm glad. I want to also say I'm glad we're buying tables. Hopefully, that's just like the bus that
Mhm.
our dream of the bus.
Mhm.
So I'm happy about that. I'm sorry.
No problem.
It's it's inside of the flexible funding tab.
I've got the Zoom screen as well my way.
Okay, what does that mean?
All right, so there's the funding, the way this works. This is, we spend our own funds. The Cutter Foundation gave money, not for this year, but last year, to have a position teach only Arabic. That money was to be applied that year. They didn't give us the money until the end of May. And by the time they were about to drop it into our bucket, CPS would have just swept it. So we asked them not to give it to us because, and we used our own internal like SPB funding for half of the position because they gave it in 2 installments. And so that was the part that this was, or 3 installments, whatever it's like, I think it was actually 3 installments. This was the last installment. And it technically would have gone to that position line, technically it becomes our money that we would have been able to spend on different things. Because it was so late, we asked to have it deferred, and we're having actually asked to have it deferred 1 more year due to we know we have some negatives and something we already talked about as an LSC. We have an opportunity. We could just move it. If we accept this money right now, it'll go into that negative, and we just. So we are asking to have this money pushed 1 more year, or else it'll just get swept. It'll get absorbed by CPS.
So we're basically paying, and they're going to reimburse us one day.
This is the reimbursement. We just haven't dropped it into the.
Okay.
It's in a grant space right now. Grants roll over. When we drop it into our space, we have to use it right away. And then, so it's still in a grant fund which rolls over. So we're keeping it there so that because once we drop it, it goes into a salary line, and that salary line that it would be aligned with is in a negative
For this year.
for this year. So
Right.
next year we won't have that negative, and so then we can turn the grant into money we can utilize.
Okay,
Right.
there's
So
not
that's-
gonna be a problem.
Yeah, and again, its utilization is not for that. The grant knows that. They know that we use our own money in lieu of the money that they had, but so it'll be technically SPB funds that we'll be able to use, but it's not strategic to use it right now.
I have one last question. The basketball money that was raised for senior night,
Mhm.
if that form is not corrected, what and where is that money? What can that money be spent on and where is it?
Right now it sits in limbo. And so we're working with the district and the chief on to make sure it'll probably drop into an athletic line. We had about $98 or something that was raised that day, but because the form wasn't complete, we can't.
And can it still be completed?
Yes,
Depending. And does it have to be completed by the coach?
has to be completed by the person who proposed the fundraiser. Yes, so working with a network to make sure the funds can still be utilized by the school.
What was the total dollar amount?
I think it was like $98.
$98.
Okay.
I, yeah, okay. If there are no other questions, I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to make a motion to approve the budget transfers that are highlighted in the budget transfer tab in the spreadsheet being shared.
Second, out of committee.
All in
Action.
favor? Okay. Unanimous.
He just said aye.
Okay, let's move on.
All right.
Vote on proposed fundraising activities. Do we have any?
Don't believe so.
Okay. FOLPHS, I don't think anybody's here, so I'll just say it real quickly. We have about $20,000 that we're ending the year with. They are going to reach out to Dr. Steinmiller to see if it's going to be spent on smart boards or something else. We need a lot of volunteers because there's a lot of us leaving. And our last meeting is June 6th at J9 Wine Bar. So it's going to be super productive. And I think that's it. Celebrations.
I've got some in the principal's report that I'm happy to
Okay.
share. Yeah.
Okay, great. Anybody else have any celebrations?
Some of it, yeah.
Yes.
So, oh yeah, I have one. I don't know who has noticed, but I've noticed since last summer that we have 3 fire hydrants that are old and rusty. And we requested with the alderman's office through 311 to get them painted last July. Multiple follow-ups, I think 5 or 6, mostly by Miss Jenny Rosenthal. No resolution. And then a couple of weeks ago, I was on the mall and Mr. Cantore, our chief engineer, walked up to me and said, "Do we know anyone at the fire station?" I said, "I don't think so." He said, "Okay, I'm just thinking, I might go down there, see if they got any paint." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "We got these hydrants." So next thing I know, earlier this week, I was walking and they were red and shiny. And I wrote him and I said, "What happened?" He said, "I walked into the station and the sergeant gave me a quart of paint." So we took care of it. So anyway, I think it's a celebration because it's such basic stuff and it takes a little initiative. And I compliment Mr. Cantore on that.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay, anybody else?
I just wanted to do one as well. And that last Friday, I had the honor of bringing in 2 undocumented teenagers into the school building to try to get them enrolled. And Dr. Steinmiller and the STLS team and Mr. Phelan and Miss Lugo, it was just an incredible outpouring of support for these 2 teenagers who were understandably had gone through a lot and were, were both typical teenagers. And also, scared, understandable. So they were also looking at their phone and trying to be distracted and not wanting to be in school. But also, obviously, they were really eager to try to get the access to not only education, but the resources that come with being enrolled. So, Ventura passes, access to a backpack with a lot of amazing supplies and clothes and shampoo and conditioner. Their mom was incredibly grateful and kept on saying that everyone were angels inside the school building. So I just want to give like a really big shout out to the team here that was so incredibly welcoming to kids. And I will also share that regretfully, not every school has been that welcoming inside the district. CPS has been trying, but it's not easy for a lot of these young people to get entrance into schools, although they are legally allowed to enter into our schools in our city. So again, big shout out. They were enrolled on Friday. We spent a few hours inside of Dr. Steinmiller's conference room. There's there's a lot obviously going on in what the crisis and the disaster happening in our city. And so the two individuals ended up electing with their mom to move to Wright College, which opened up as a shelter on Saturday for a lot of families. And they moved farther away. They were at the police station prior to that. And so there's various people inside of our community that are trying to bring this specific family back inside the community, potentially with housing in order to make it easier for the students to be part of the Lincoln Park High School community.
And do you think that they will finish out the year, or are they just going to start in the fall?
I think it's an open question right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, we temporarily, it's become more difficult for them to travel to the school. But I'm hoping that Dr. Steinmiller has made a commitment to try to get them into summer programming if they choose to come into summer programming. So, hopefully, fingers crossed,
I'm
it works
glad
out.
That was our response. Welcome, open arms. Humble. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have another one I wanted to highlight that maybe others know about, but Oz Park is based on the theme of the Wizard of Oz, and they have statues. They have decided to also add a face wall where you can stick your face in and pretend that you're the scarecrow or whatever. So they had an open competition to design that, and the winner was a Lincoln Park High School student, Jasmine Mistrake. Sorry, I violated that. I see the last name. Yeah. So she won. There's a picture with her with the president of the Oz Park Association. There's going to be an unveiling in October. There is a picture available of the design, and I thought it was beautiful. Really, very, very elegant. So that's pretty cool. And if you think about it, that will be there for years. Hundreds and thousands of children are going to take their picture there, pretending they're Dorothy. And it was painted by a Lincoln Park High School student.
That's okay. I hope.
And thank you for the art teachers who helped her too.
I hope in October we can make a beginning.
Mhm.
That'd be great.
I'll put it on all your schedules.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. You're gonna come back for it, right?
I'll come back.
Mhm.
Okay, you're up, Dr. Steinmiller.
All right, I've got the presentation queued being the end of the year. Obviously, we've been focusing on graduation and a lot of other wonderful activities. So this kind of jump through. I don't know why my screen is not liking me. These are things, again, that I've talked about all year that we're committed to in our work. These will be the last of these CIWP priorities as we move into a whole new CIWP process, which I'm excited about talking about today. Programming, some of the things with programming, I want to continue to update on where we are at with this. Today, our teachers received, this is the June 1st is the day in which all teachers will receive their preliminary courses. They received that today already. Our students, their loaded classes are in Aspen. We're just making sure they can access to see what other recommendations and view it through Aspen, because that'll be the tool that we want them to be able to see with their own course loads. We'll continue to go through our diagnostics. We have over 400 students who have taken a diagnostic. We've already surpassed last year with 524 students anticipated for 9th year. We haven't taken anybody from the wait list. We're still in the range that we want to be. But yeah, we have the majority of our students who have taken the diagnostics, and we expect to get towards 100% to the best of our ability. We have another diagnostic coming up on the 8th or in future dates. And then when we have our freshman connection, those students that we're missing, we'll want to make sure we connect with them too. So we should have a substantially increased amount of students that we know the appropriate placement based on their diagnostics. And these are just, again, the continuation where all students get their schedule by quick start, August 10th and 11th.
And the diagnostic is for math, English, and language?
Yeah, and in some cases, we're going and doing diagnostics of the ability to perform a musical instrument and choir. And we do have, those are some of the areas, those actually are some areas in which we may have taken about 10, we're looking at taking about 10 students. And we have some amazing musicians who want to come to our program. So that's probably really the only way in which freshmen can come through off of a wait list. At this point, we don't want to oversize ourselves. There's no reason for us to explode our freshman class, overfill classes. So if 524 is great, threshold I'm paying attention to for freshmen is 500, 499 actually, but 500. That's where we would break even financially. And so this would actually increase our funding going into the following year in a way that's substantial, but also getting to a good size fit for us as a school. Yeah, so they're in Aspen, all of their, when they met with the counselors, all of their requests are in Aspen. And so we're working to make sure they have the view of it in Aspen. That's not as easy as we thought it was going to be.
No,
Yeah,
no, they put their first choice, second choice, third choice, and on a piece of paper, and they talk to the counselor, and then now they can see it on Aspen on June 1st.
And so we're working with Aspen to make sure. So that's why it's not highlighted, because it's in Aspen. We know it is. The view part of the student's a little bit more complicated. Yeah, so that's why I haven't.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So that's the one thing that we're trying to follow up on, because we know it's there. It's just their viewing of it. That's in making sure that we want to make sure we're sitting down quadruple checking teachers, meeting with department chairs about the courses for next year and what that would look like. In some instances, having one-on-ones depending on that type of situation. But that's teachers receive their preliminary schedules today.
And we're still a go for August 10th and 11th schedules.
That is correct.
And last year, teachers received their preliminary classes in August.
No, we're contractually there. And this is from they aren't getting their first period class, third period. These are the classes I'm teaching next year, because with freshmen specifically, let's say right now we anticipate needing 13 honors English 1 classes, 7 standard English 1 classes. But based on the diagnostics, that may shift. We may need 15 and 5. So it's too early to make that commitment on that. But we give the preliminary. If there is a change, then I would contact a teacher and explain, look, looks like there's gonna be a change in your schedule. And that's something that I
So
would.
they get their classes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next up, budget overview. We did it already.
Yep.
And maybe in something we can talk about within the principal's report and budget, finding that balance. Like, it could even be a part of the principal's report. And we make that, internalize it to be even more efficient with our time. Monthly updates. Again, one school, one community, some of the actions we're taking. We had a business roundtable yesterday. We brought in businesses from Target, Walgreens, other businesses, and trying to find a reciprocal partnership. We have like Subway is donating food. We have a lot of groups that are trying to create maybe potential discounts for our faculty and staff, also future jobs for our students. Some of the things that we were focusing on in this business roundup was some of the disruptions that have been happening at some of the businesses. And regardless if they're youth, they sometimes just get defaulted to they must be a Lincoln Park High School student. That isn't, and I will be very clear, that isn't always the case. We're very responsive to the needs when we hear something. We do not have, quote, jurisdiction off of campus, but we are working and partnering. I know that JJ, I'm messing up your presentation today. I will stop. I'm so sorry. JJ will probably talk about this a little bit more, but I just want to give today, JJ and Tom, we're going to the businesses today. Because what we have found is that when we're present and when they see students respond based on the relationships they have with teachers, in a restaurant, students are meeting. And so these are some things that we want to make sure that our students aren't getting arrested. We want to make sure our students aren't being, so we're trying to really help them. And the final statement we heard from them is we learned a lot about child psychology and how we need to build relationships. That's basically the end of it. But this is a start of future partnerships with a variety of our businesses, so we can build positive relationships. Also with neighborhood partners associations, working with them and how they can support through grants and different, how our students can be involved in activities that are taking place. Why am I looking up there when I can actually look at my screen? Currently, I think it's Alcott's graduation is taking place. No, Prescott. Prescott is having their 8th grade graduation in our auditorium right now. And so again, with our partnerships with our 8 elementary feeder schools, we're trying to host all of them here. Again, that's being the center of a community. And so I'm very excited about what's going on at this very moment. And I think we have another one tomorrow. Yeah. And so other partnerships, I wasn't able to update this, DePaul partnership, gym space, testing space. We had various members from DePaul, head of their athletics, head of their representative for the president. That person just replied to me today. We have several things that we're looking at. One, gym space. It's just not adequate for the expectations of our basketball program and athletic programs for our students. So what does that look like for having our home games all there, or majority of our home games there, or the big games there? And so those are things that we're trying to work out, as well as when testing, we do our mocks and some of our big testing time, we take and cannibalize our gyms. And then we aren't able to use that for instructional space, which is our wellness classes. And the teachers deserve to, just like a chemistry class, we don't try to take over it like for 3 weeks at a time. And so trying to find a balance on Fridays, they have fewer of their classrooms being utilized, then maybe we can, instead of like utilize some of their larger their classrooms for that. So we're trying to find what that can look like through DePaul from an athletic and a physical usage space, but also reciprocally where some of their student teachers are coming here. Does that give vouchers to our teachers to get credits? We know we need ESL endorsements. We're seeing an increase of students who need ESL support in the classroom, and we don't have enough teachers with the endorsement. So you host a student teacher, and then you can get classes for free that lead towards that accreditation. So these are the things that we're trying to help, and also create pipelines with DePaul, also Loyola and UIC for student teachers to come through. And speaking of that partnership with this, we are working with Chicago Public Schools. We have been a hub for residents, meaning our teachers have been hosting and having a resident diverse learning teacher, an LBS 1 teacher. This year we had 2. We're hiring one of them. And so it creates, again, a pipeline for us to have access to teachers. Because in the last 3 years, I've been working with that group for probably the last 6 or so years in this process, and have a good track record of that partnership. Their head of the program has asked, how many can we take? So we may have up to 6 or 7 residents next year. We have that many LBS 1 teachers interested and capable of being a mentor teacher. They're each going to get about $10,000 to do that. And it's going to be paid for by the board, not by us. And so these are some of the additional funding source, like ways in which I'm trying to bring funding in outside of our traditional SPV funding.
The teachers get $10,000 to mentor.
Yep, for entire, and not student, it's not a student teacher, it's a resident. So they are a CPS, technically a CPS employee for an entire year. They're coming from alternative, could be a SECA, could be in different areas. And so they're going through an academic program to become a teacher. They have then a provisional licensure for a period of time to finish that program. And it's a way in which it has been a way to increase, one, teachers who have LBS 1 endorsements, but also brings more diversity to the teaching pool. One of the reason we have a vacancy right now is one of our SECAs is getting their teaching endorsement. And so that's, what that wasn't directly, but it's like that kind of program is really helping funnel people into the teaching job.
And I'm assuming that helps in the classroom because then you have less.
Yeah, multiple people.
Right.
And often if they're working directly with a LBS 1 diverse learning teacher, our teachers, we've been trying to narrow their load. So when I shared the load of everybody what they're teaching today, an example would be an English teacher is going to teach 3 co-taught classes of English 1, 2 instructional classes, meaning smaller class settings of the same content. So the prep is the same prep, smaller group, larger group, helps streamline that. Often you see at schools, diverse learning teachers are teaching a chem class, a math class, an English, like they're just teaching all over the place. We're streamlining where they can then partner with a specific co-taught teacher, take the same curriculum and align it with the instructional class in a smaller setting. Now you have a resident with them. So now you have a co-teacher and a resident, and you have an instructional set, two teachers for 8 to 13 students max. So it's really great for our diverse learning students. And I'm really trying to prioritize also people who potentially have ESL endorsements and are bilingual based on our. And I'm really proud, again, kind of piggybacking off what Brad was saying just a moment ago. Mr. Phelan is new in the last 2 to 3 years to help support, have a counselor who is bilingual. We have an amazing team within our attendance office who are able to support our bilingual in our office support. So it is a need and it's a growing need, and we welcome all students. And so I'm very grateful for the team that we have. Aldermanic support, CPS backed out of our meeting to talk about our parking lot. They were, our alderman was ready to go. Capital couldn't attend. And so I appreciate the aldermanic support from all 5 aldermen. And some of our future planning for building and community events and needs. Our alderman jumped in also to help with our senior event to make sure that they could have another senior activity that was great. LPS positions, this is anticipation for next year, things that we're looking at. We expect that we'll have 2 individuals in society, and these are formal. We know that we were going to have these positions, 2 individuals in society's positions, and we're trying to focus on DPTOK business experience that have that specific background. Interventionist, right now ESL would be also a ESL or bilingual endorsement would be helpful in that. This is mandated by the district that we have this position, so we need to hire for it. Mandarin, we're hiring a new Mandarin teacher because of the expansion of that program. Ms. Wu has done a phenomenal job of building it, and now we're at a point where it's not sustainable when we have about 7 to 8 classes that need to be taught in Mandarin. We anticipate 1 SECA position, and then are already aware of a chemistry TAT that we'll have a leave in the fall, in which we need to start filling right now. So most of these have already been posted. They're already, and we have numerous applications. We have, last I checked, we had 5 Mandarin. We may have more now, 7 now. So we have some really quality candidates. So cool. Next up. Testing.
One quick, sorry, Dr. Simler. The chemistry TAT, I know chemistry is something, yeah, that we dealt with last year, obviously. Is there a concern about filling that position?
Not at this point. I mean, mid-year TATs are just, people are already hired. It's June, so we have an opportunity to do it now. And we have some ideas of candidates who would be available. Testing update. This was shared in our midweek update of just going through. It's 2 pages and you really don't need to read it. But what we're aligning, these are all of the testing dates for next year, the testing windows, when we anticipate that'll take place. A lot of these are still TBD because they haven't been set by the district or by College Board or by IB or AP. But we have a way to monitor what we anticipate that window will be. So we'll put a anticipated window of testing based off of this year's schedule in our professional learning calendar that all our teachers have access to. This is, I think this is last year's, this is us mocking up what it will look like for next year, but this is our professional learning calendar. In this, you have what should be taking place each week. We really want to make this a living, breathing document. We don't feel there's a shared investment in it yet. So what we want to have is all the testing windows in this for the year, when the assemblies are taking place, every event that we anticipate for the year that could potentially disrupt instruction will be in this professional learning calendar for the entire year. We will have beginning of the year assemblies, quarterly assemblies. Those will be in here from the start. We'll know that it's going to be second and whatever period on Tuesday and Thursday. So we'll have all of that laid out in our professional learning calendar.
Teachers have access.
Yes, and this is our, so we're already starting to highlight like things we need to update for the following year, but there is a SY23 LPHS professional learning calendar. It's linked in our newsletter every week.
And that's the one that you said, when the ISA testing event happened, that you would, by the end of May, the end of the month, publish that. And that's what you shared. So
Yep, it was shared yesterday.
Okay.
Dr. Simler, with the goal of this being a living document, who owns this from an administration standpoint? Just to make sure there's fidelity with the document.
Yeah, this is so when we have our SLT, we have an instructional and we have operational meetings. Instructional is on Tuesday, operations on Friday. That's where this operational part during our meeting, we do a 2-week in review, and this will be the document that we want everything invested in this, as well as the calendar that everybody sees in Google, or the Google Calendar. So these are going to be the 2 that we'll be reviewing every Friday 2 weeks out. Where are we at? What are the major things that are coming down the line that we need to, and then it's always going to be linked to that newsletter. So it's always accessible. Yeah, it's in our newsletter. Again, I don't know how, like, we need to promote that this is a living thing that everybody should be interacting with. I can't say that people are interacting with this as we would like them to. So if we add all the meaningful pieces into it, and even in clips 2 weeks in advance or something in our newsletter, there's been a version of that already that Ms. Walker's been working on and based off of the feedback from the communications committee. So this is another way to reinforce and over communicate as much as we can what is taking place for the entire year. So they can put their unit plans together to May based off of what they see. We'll be doing a lot of work with the unit plan. So, did I do it right?
I'll just say, Dr. Simo, it's a much needed improvement. So thank you for putting a focus on it. I know you've made the commitment, but this would, I'm sure, save so many headaches if we could go backwards. So thank you for focusing on it.
Have it all laid out for the year, so it's already there, and then over communicate it as we lead to it.
And then, wait a minute. So what happens if there's assembly on Tuesday during third period and that's been changed? How do they get that notice? It's been changed.
Well, I mean, the way this is set up, we already know in advance. It's quote third period on Tuesday, unless there was something catastrophic we had to change or something else to that. We would just, it's already set. We already have a plan. So in our newsletter, we'd be like 2 weeks out, Tuesday is the assembly. Week out, Tuesday is the assembly. And this is where teachers can view it, and also PPLC can review it too and give feedback and go like, hey, let's talk and think about it. So, but yeah, we've had it the last 2 years. I mean, we've had it every year. It's just, we need to have investment in engaging with it. And I think that's what we have to prioritize. But these are just examples of what we've already have in our SY24 draft that we're working on. And we already have a senior leadership retreat time, ILT retreat time during the summer set. I think it's 6th, 7th, we're meeting to be able to help build these things out and finalize them and then get other eyes on it. Follow-up items. CIWP, we finally got our template. It just came in. And there are a lot of things that are it's very different than the past kind of versions of things. I'm still juggling with how user-friendly it is. I think that's the right word I'm looking for when I engage with it. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of dissecting it for you at this time, but you can kind of see just some of the fill in the blanks that come with it that are laid out, reflections. There's certain types of things that we have to reference and self-assess that we wouldn't have known about until we got this. And then there's steps we have to take to go through this within takeaways, which lead to prioritization. And so there's a lot of things that we're going to have to go through. The one thing that I want to emphasize in it, they are stating within it that the CIWP team should only be 8 to 12 members. Right now we have 30, which is great, but there's going to be 8 to 12 primary CIWP members on this. And so we have to be strategic about what that group looks like, but we still believe in the structure we have set up with the subcommittees. And so just because somebody isn't named here on the CIWP, we want people to participate within each of the additional subcommittees. And that's something in a way in which we can have as many people as we want engage with this. So our timeline of activities going into next week, June 6th, there is a section where you complete the draft, the reflection document, the response questions, the student outcomes. We've already done some preliminary work within the ILT, and I know the instructional subcommittee did like a dot activity to kind of gauge some of the thinking that will help inform some of this. I know our other groups have been identifying the new data sources because that's different. The template asked us to look at things that are very different. So the primary group will work on building out the reflection document, the response questions, the student outcomes, so that on June 8th, we'll be able to meet with committee and subcommittee members at 11 o'clock. We can talk about, this is the template, break down what it's all about, and then go into subcommittees this is, again, every participation in CIWP is optional. And so nobody's mandated to be a part of it, but it's that group will then meet on the 8th. On the 7th, June 7th, that's not on here. I'm reviewing this document. I've already set the expectations with all of our team members, our assistant principals, as well as the appropriate leads for that. You know, our college career coach would be post-secondary. So that by the 7th, then I'll review the development of it so that we can make sure we have a good foundation for feedback from the committee and subcommittees on the 8th. By June 30th, the portion of it that's the root cause and theory of action needs to be complete. I'll progress monitor dates with that subcommittee can set dates that work for them over the course of the summer. July 31st, the goal setting, implementation plan, and progress monitoring draft within that CIWP tool needs to be complete. We're doing a lot of sense making of the template, and so that's, again, we just got it, and this is what we have to be able to do. And that we have a good draft of ultimately what is our CIWP so that we can review it at the August LSC meeting, which could potentially lead to a vote. The vote has to take place by September. Regardless, this should inform our professional learning calendar I just showed you, our PD that we have set out for over the course of the year. One thing that we will be meeting on, I forgot about this, with like from the PPC earlier, is to talk, while we did the schedule vote and we're able to flex our first 2 days of Monday and Tuesday of professional development, the last day that, I don't know why it's on a Monday, but that's what it would have been, those flex days. Our last day of professional development that administration is responsible and can lead was February. It was the last opportunity for us to have professional development outside of those flex days. So we had no other days. So something we will talk about is how we can split all of those professional development days that are spread out, some that are teacher directed, to have them be a balance of admin and teacher directed. It's actually a benefit. It gives more time for actually teachers to have time, independent time, which is good. But that's something that we have yet to hash out within the PPC, and I look forward to that partnership. That's something we'll talk about further to be able to implement some of our CIWP goals and steps. So that's where we are at with our CIWP.
I feel like we're starting to.
The template was a starting point that we really need.
And I think it's absolutely absurd that CPS wants the most important school document to be done over the summer. Parents don't want to participate, students don't want to participate, and I know teachers don't want to.
It's a valid argument.
This is typical CPS, and it just drives me insane.
Acknowledged, heard,
Okay, thank
and
you.
noted.
I feel better. All right, moving on.
So as a LSC, just be prepared to the August. If we're at a point in which we can vote, we will. If we aren't, then it would be September. But I don't want to overcommit. And this is where, once we do have those priorities, that again, our senior leadership and our ILT, because a lot of this will carry into what is our department doing in their meetings, carrying into our TCTs, and that's the role of the department chair to lead that work of their department and the curriculum and instruction that takes place in department and how it's informing the curriculum planning process. And then the PPLC can get, because of those benchmarks and those progress monitoring things we have to document within the template, that's what PPLC can look at. Where are we at with the monitoring? How do we make adjustments? They're the coach of our CIWP, and that is the role of traditionally PPLCs in a lot of ways. And then just kind of linking it back to how this view looks. Yeah.
One more question. I was on the CIWP a few years ago, committee, and Mr. Stuckey, I felt, was leading it. Were you leading that process?
Oh, yeah.
I'm asking.
At the time he was, yes.
Yes. Yes, we broke out into breakout rooms and stuff. Is that?
Similar to this, yes. But with subcommittees that can have more people, like similar to like that. We had as many people as we wanted with it. That'll be the same way when it comes to the actual document of making final decision making. And I think that's where the research, probably a group of 30 to 40 to do, you're not going to get 8 to 12, but that is CPS. There is a rationale where we can ask for 1 or 2 more for whatever reason, but we cannot have all 40
And
people.
so is this created remotely?
That depends on the needs of the subcommittee. I don't want to say everybody has to be in person when that's not necessarily needed. Celebrations. We had our graduation and it was awesome. Kids did a fantastic job. Honorable Jesse White was our speaker to have an alumnus come back, and just all the accomplishments he has made as a grad, just as an amazing person. And then this is our valedictorian, Natalie, too. So they had some awesome speeches. The UIC Pavilion was a great space, able to increase tickets from 4 to 10 per family, and they used them. I mean, it was packed.
Neighborhoods king.
It was awesome, and that's how it should be. And so we have I think we've already kind of put our reservation in for doing it at the same space again. And there's opportunities for us to actually even expand. This was a graduating class of 473 students. We will eventually have classes of 500, and especially with supports in place. So it's a great space to be. And there's their upper deck area that can actually expand to that they started to go to. So I mean, I would love to be able to say, here's 15 tickets. It's all Ticketmaster requires that kind of like access, but it was awesome.
Is it always going to be Memorial Day weekend?
The way our schedule, the way the board's
It's CPS.
calendar and schedule works. Otherwise, I mean, the next opportunity would have been this during a weekday, which is something.
Do you think it is?
I think it's, I
I'd be happy to engage with families and students on options. But really the only weekends we have, that one and then this one, like June.
Yeah.
right.
3rd.
I mean, there's still, I think this weekend that are graduating, right?
There's
Yeah,
some-
I think there's
now
schools.
the issue with, so there's the policy things we have to be aware of. According to Chicago Public Schools, the Chicago Public Schools and ISB have two different interpretations of this. Once a student graduates, walks across the stage, CPS is not monitoring their attendance. It is they're coded absent excused, AE or absence excused. It's a specific term. So it's not counting against the student. Actually, according to the state, students are students until Wednesday of next week, even if they've graduated. So us mandating making students come to school would be the dumbest thing, and we would have just 474 students just running about. So as soon as students can graduate, we can exempt them from being in attendance. So if we have graduation on, let's say Thursday, let's say it was today. Today was graduation. Grades would have been due a week ago. And you would have now a week and a half of students without grades, it becomes a management thing. And honestly, what are the students doing with their time? We're asking them it's not, so having a shorter turnaround from the window is why you see.
Thursday.
Not that, the students are here in their classroom going like, why am I here? Teachers
Okay.
going, I can't,
But is the first day then you could do graduation on that Saturday?
yes, that is the earliest we can do it.
Got it. I don't know. That just seemed,
The turnout was great. That's also why we did it at 10 o'clock in the morning so that families could come together, celebrate, and then have the evening, the Sunday, and actually you could keep celebrating. But I think you bring up a good point, and man, I know Miss Diaz is stepping out, and I was just paying attention also to some of the graduation events that are going on. But we can document it. Maybe if for our parents, I see some parents in the audience too. We can survey and ask the parents, like, would it be better? Like, was this great, or would it be better to be a midweek? And ask that question. Ask our students before they're totally not checking email. So that's something we can follow up on.
Okay, good.
Cool. It was at UIC, but it was at not the pavilion, but the forum. It's a smaller venue. This is an awesome venue, and it's also nice that then I think we need to think about how students leave. It's sort of like left to the street, and it was cool when it was shut down, but when it wasn't cool. And so kind of like where families can go, maybe somewhere else to kind of congregate, so they can enjoy having the photos
Or
and
just make sure the streets be
for a longer period of time. Yeah.
earlier, maybe.
So this graduation, this is just a quick photo of one of our art exhibitions. I know you kind of talked about another one of the images from the Oz Park, but we also want to make sure we're celebrating our students had our contest winners. These are some of the great things that our students have accomplished within their art program. We also have our Special Olympics competitions. We every year we also host where we bring in school cluster programs from other schools. Use Oz Park. Partnering with one of my previous schools and some of the other schools to help build community within our cluster program outside of the classroom, and then seeing our students rock in first place. Other events that we've had, trips and things to the zoo, open mics to end the year, and obviously all the senior celebrations that took place. Again, here are the terms. The gajillion of them that we have. I think there's several others that I will add to the list at a later time.
Okay,
That is it.
I had-
Mr. Yeah.
I had one question, just high level. What are your plans for the summer for the school? What are your priorities? Like what will happen for the next several months?
Yeah, so we will have several different programs taking place at the school. Right when the school ends, CPS has granted us, even though we still can't get the emails, a period in which administrators are to not be, quote, disturbed by CPS. They call it their window of just not engagement. We still get stuff, but so for the next two weeks after school, it'll be pretty low key. We'll have some accelerated math programs. We are hosting summer school. This will be the second year in a row in which we started hosting summer school, prioritizing credits that are freshmen. Maybe they're keeping them off track, sophomores on track, or seniors who aren't going to graduate. We've expanded that option. We have a wider offering this year for our students to be able to attend. Those who have signed up to attend, we're trying to make sure we waive some fees around that so that they can access and get those credits. Students from other schools that maybe do attend, because it becomes open, we will charge them. So we have summer school lined up. We also have freshman connection lined up. We have 3 weeks of freshman connection, similar to the past years that we've done this, where we welcome our incoming freshmen, build community, have our teachers and our students. We have a lot of OET clubs taking place. Some of our clubs that were taking place throughout the course of the year are using OST funds. And so they're meeting and having music clubs, camps, different things set all year long, all summer long, keeping our students engaged. You've already heard about the library. So we try to keep the school is going to be very busy. We have rented out our pool. We rent out different facilities. It's, again, income source for transportation. So we're trying to do pedal heads these are things we've already voted on LSC, so you're already aware of these. But it's a very busy summer, as well as also trying to build up our facilities.
Build up our facility?
Yeah, deep clean, like strip floors. So there's things that also have to be monitored.
Okay.
Yeah.
Students, as soon as that window opened, we were registering kids. Our counselors were bringing them in. So I'm expanding, prioritizing, especially students seniors. We want our seniors to graduate, and those were the classes that we focused on offering. Would be like English classes, certain things.
And do the different kids get first
Dibs?
yes, first dibs?
Not necessarily, it's more of anybody who needs summer school. If we need to open up a second section, we could. So it's really just all our welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
I also just want to note that we know that not all the staff is 12 months. It's a limited number of people. So I do know on the safety and security side, Mr. G is 12 months. And I think maybe
College career coach. We also have so our college career coach is 52 weeks, as well as our attendance coordinator. Our attendance coordinator is going to help with our enrollment processes for incoming ninth graders. So you have somebody dedicated to that, but also having counselors come in to help support the enrollment. We created a specific enrollment email address. So if one of our counselors was on vacation for 3 weeks, that people aren't emailing, they're not getting a response. So we created one email account that everybody has access to, so that multiple people are responding to it. That's been a shift of practice to not have it bear on one person. It's attendance office, it's enrollment. So multiple people can monitor those email addresses. And all this funding is, again, external. So we're not paying for these things internally. This is the security guards, the clerks, are all board funded or through additional outside resources outside our student-based budget.
Just to update on what we talked about last night in terms of the college and career, Gary has agreed to help spearhead working with Eric Yu Dr. Steinmiller, and perhaps the college and obviously the college and career coach. Is that something that we could start this summer, so we're ready to hit the ground running in the fall?
Align it to our CIWP, because that's one of the priorities that we want to really focus on. We also have funding for an additional staff member who's going to be coming and helping with college career transitioning of our seniors to make sure they are going to college. So our college career coach will have a second person as a support.
Great. I just would love to not wait till September because we got to get this
Oh, yeah.
started, you know.
Is he
No.
gonna reach out to them, or are they supposed to reach out to him?
It's Gary?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll help coordinate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Rowe.
Everybody. So the 2022-2023 athletics year is over. It ended on a high note. Two of our male track athletes competed at the state meet this previous week. So that's kind of the end of everything, but qualifying for state's a pretty big deal. It's a lot of fun. As a former track coach, it's usually the hottest weekend of the year and you drink about 200 ounces of water, but it's a really good experience. You get to meet kids from all over the state and stay in the dorms. So right now, as far as vacancies go, for fall and winter, every single vacancy, we've had at least one interested party reach out. Today, I had a kind of a formal interview with a woman who's interested in taking over the swim program for boys and girls. She's relocating from Lockport, Illinois to Lincoln Park. She also is a SICA. So I think she might have already applied for the open position. So we're kind of prepared to offer her, to take over that part of our aquatics program. But I was out last week, so I'm kind of a week behind of where I'd like to be as far as staffing goes. But again, for fall and winter, we've had at least one person reach out for every single coaching vacancy.
Tell me who is hiring the basketball coach? Is it you? Is it Dr. Steinmiller?
So it's still kind of in its infancy. We've just been going through resumes. I've had very casual 30-minute Zoom calls with about 10 different people. We haven't reached out as far as who we're bringing in for the more formal sit-down interviews. We want to have a formal interview. We also want to have our student athletes have about 3 representatives. This is what we did with our girls head coach, where we have the formal interview, then 3 student athletes can ask their questions, kind of get to know the person, get to know their personality, their coaching style, their philosophy, how they want to run practices. And then we'd like each of the final round of candidates to run a kind of a shortened practice.
Okay.
And then that's how the decision is going to get
I
made.
just want her to be team input.
Sure. Yeah. Me too. I don't want to make the decision by myself at all. So yeah.
Okay.
Should we-
Good. Any other questions?
Yeah. Do you want to go?
I just want to stay on basketball for one moment.
Oh, sure. Go.
Yeah. It would be great if Dr. Steinmiller or Mr. O, if we could have actually like a full-on presentation about the basketball program for next year,
Okay.
Even prior to the coach coming on board. So in terms of compliance, protocols, calendaring, whatever potentially took place over the last several years. I just think that this LSC, especially the community, I bet it would be well attended
For sure.
as well,
Yeah.
and that there's a deep dive, even if we have to do a special called meeting. I can understand, and you can comment on this, that we're going into summer play or there's summer tournaments going on or whatnot. I don't know the perfect time for that. Perfect time would have been a year ago,
Yeah.
2 years ago, 3 years ago. But if there's an opportunity this summer, again, for like a special meeting, maybe outside of our LSC calendar, but an LSC special meeting that just focused on basketball, that was a presentation, that would be something that I think the community needs.
I think we can, because I've already met with Chicago Public League too. So I know we've had a really high interest of individuals who want to be a part of want to lead this program. So I've met with Chicago Public League as well. The official, looking at backgrounds, who are the people who are going to provide the best opportunities for our athletes, but also build program, bring in or retain anybody that's currently been a part of the program. So that is where that process has been part of that process. I know we've been reviewing what that will look like. Ms. Theus is also helping lead this work as well. So it'll be Ms. Theus and I, Mr. O, as well as our students. Their voice has to be a part of this. It's their team. And so I want this to be resolved very quickly. And I know that our candidates are very eager to come in, even as soon as next week, to try to finalize this. I don't want to limit it to next week and because of availability, and then we put somebody up. But some people with very good experiences and are known in Chicago for the impact they've had in the programs are applying.
Sorry, Chair, if I can just make one other comment that I just don't want this to be a coach solves everything situation, which is what I just heard, because, you know, we know that there's just top down considerations because basketball has been a conversation topic for several years inside the school. So that's why I specifically said, you know, between our athletic director and our principal and maybe with APs, if there could be something that happens prior to bringing someone new into the building. So again, I'd recommend as soon as something can get put forward, so that someone's entering into the building, they can be part of the network of problem solving. But there's expectations I know from the administration on down that, you know, are set or are going to be set that I'd like the LSC to, you know, have some knowledge of. Perfect.
And then, my thought just went away. It'll come back to me.
All right, I have one.
Okay, good.
So on the other sports, so it's great that we have multiple 10 candidates for basketball. Hearing that we have one for the other sports, I guess is good, better than zero. But like, do we got to go with those people? Do you think we'll get more? How do you feel satisfied with the response? Like,
So for instance, like with the swim coach, I mean, she was the only person that applied. She's been the head coach at a very large high school for a very long time. She's been a club coach for like over a decade. So
okay.
In that situation, I'd say, and she wants to take over both programs, like, and she's eager and like seems like a perfect fit. I'd really like, you know, our boys team didn't have a season this year. She's like, I'd really like to turn the program around. Like, so in that instance, you know, I feel like she checks off every single box and like, and then some. I'm sure some of these candidates where you might only have one person, you know, I'm not really going to be satisfied with, you know, their ability, but that's just where we are right now. So I'd like in that situation, I wouldn't just like to take the one person who is going to be a warm body and we're going to be in the same situation 12 months from now.
And so for the fall coaching, if people are not part of the process, like they need to get the background check and stuff, and then there's preseason, like it starts, I think August 1st or something like that, August 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So like if it can take a couple months to get someone fingerprinted and everything, that would mean backing up June 7th, next Wednesday, we would need to have a full staff. Is that right? Or do you think?
So 2 months is like definitely on the high end, but it does have like our lacrosse coach got onboarded in less than 2 weeks. I don't know why, but I mean, it was like 11 days from when she applied and she had an ID.
So 2 months to 2 weeks, sounds like. All right. Dr. Steinmiller, is that something that you think could be expedited? Because I'm just worried we may not have all these filled by Wednesday.
I was actually just in a meeting today with the district or network and the district pertaining to concerns around just the onboarding process because it's been so inconsistent. I need to double check that coaches are aligned with it as well, but new hires, we've been where we've hired somebody just in a teaching position that has gone on for months at a time. The hiring process now, and I'll follow up with athletics specifically, there's now a dashboard in which we can see the progress and be able to monitor it. The district is hiring I don't know how many people to do it, but a lot of what the HR people are sort of on here's your email is now you have to follow up on next steps person that we've sent this to. They have somebody who's following up and we can now see, is it the person who hasn't submitted the fingerprinting or is it
where it's stuck in the process?
That is brand new as of really explanation today. So I really can't expand on but this has been a continual issue of onboarding ever since I've been in Chicago Public Schools. And so this seems to be the right step in the direction. So I don't know why sometimes something can be 2 weeks and then sometimes it takes a month and a half, or that we offer a SECA position to somebody and 3 months later the person didn't follow up in the steps and they now own the position, but they can't release it for us to fill it with somebody else. Like there's these things that we're trying to navigate. I'll try to see if athletics is going to be a part of this dashboard because that would be really wonderful, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I encourage all of our coaches who are coming from outside of CPS to do is apply for volunteer one status simultaneously while applying for to be an onboarded coach, because they can start coaching with a volunteer one. For instance, our head girls basketball coach did a great job this year. He got volunteer one status in like 2.5 weeks. He didn't get hired for 2 months, but he was able to coach. He was technically a volunteer coach for that interim period, but he was able to kind of get on like in the building around the student athletes a lot quicker than if he would have just done the job route.
Okay. And then for two other sports, wrestling, I know is an area you have expertise. Do you think we can get a coach for wrestling this
We've
year?
had somebody apply. Yeah.
Okay.
And we've had somebody apply for a varsity assistant position. This is like today and yesterday.
Okay.
So it's still pretty new.
So you don't know if they're quality
Right.
candidates yet. Okay. All right.
And I think too, well, specifically with wrestling, there's a lot of summer events going on this summer with the nonprofit that I used to volunteer at. So I can kind of go there and maybe poach somebody or maybe get somebody in because
Great.
yeah.
Okay.
And wrestling's both genders, correct?
Yes.
All genders.
Yes.
Okay.
And
So now it's sorry. Wrestling is now actually it's not a co-ed sport anymore. As of 2 seasons ago was the first season in Illinois where there was a girls state series, and it's technically separated. Girls can wrestle in the boys division. Actually, getting off topic, but the first time in the Illinois state tournament history, a girl placed in the boys division, so it was pretty cool. Yeah.
And then a last question is, I know you've said that there are some stipended positions like assistant coaches that we have not used in the past. So we have money available that's sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
This year, is there a plan to fill and use up all our money to get assistants?
So for fall and winter, people have applied for those positions that we've never filled before. I didn't really look at spring today because
fine.
But for instance, we have a candidate for the freshman cross country coach that reached out, and there's never been 4 coaches before.
Okay.
So this would be if she works out, that'd be the first time we've had 4 cross country coaches, even though from what I've kind of gleaned from talking to Coach Doppert, we've always had enough to have 4 coaches. It's just never happened.
Okay. And then parent athletic committee, student athlete handbook, starting the season checklists. Those are some items that have come up. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it's I kind of got sidetracked by a lot of had some health issues this month. But it's stuff that I'm hoping in the next week or so
Okay.
kind of get sorted out.
Thank you.
How about tennis?
What's that?
Tennis.
Now,
Is that
What-
code- is a tennis coach hired?
No.
is what?
That's
Tennis.
Right, coach
We're
hired.
just wondering what the status of
Yeah.
tennis.
We've had a couple people reach out, and I've talked to them. We haven't had formal interviews yet. Again, this happened when I was out from the Friday before I was gone to all of last week is when people have reached out. So again, I'm kind of like a week behind where I'd like to be in a lot of the staffing positions. For tennis, 3. Mhm.
Are any of them former Olympians?
Mhm.
Okay, and then are you going to
Attention.
have a coaching training workshop for everything from how to request the bus to how to go on an out of town trip?
I would love to do that. I think that's definitely something that should happen when the teachers. I'm a 52-week employee, but that's definitely something is going to be mandatory. If I can make it mandatory in August, like if you're going to coach here, you have to come this day. If not, I've got a pretty flexible schedule. We can go through it, or here's 3 days. You have to attend one of these sessions.
It is an expectation that I have that our athletic director will be leading every single coach through that process at a set date, sign-ins. People have to attend that. If you're not attending that, then that's not commitment to the position. This is also a stance very much from the district as well. Being a part of we were supposed to have a meeting yesterday, but next week will be the follow-up to the principal advisory committee for the Chicago Public League. They are working to build also the consistent handbook structures, but also some of the things that are aligned with the ISB to increase communication. So we're going to have our handbook for the fall that is detailed and aligned to, again, CPL, which those are all the expectations that have to be implemented.
Right, I'm sorry, I keep going, but I have. more
No, they're all
questions.
good questions. Yeah.
Okay, will you make sure that the fundraising form is part of that
Yes.
workshop?
Yes.
And then also, I'm not telling you how to do your job, but Corey Hilton has it down pat.
She does. I
I
agree.
would use her to
Yeah.
help you. Okay, and then, are there any basketball tasks happening right now that we're missing?
There's a summer league that currently our athletes are not participating in.
They're not participating.
Because
Okay,
they don't have a coach.
but there's like, are we supposed to be asking for a schedule? Are we supposed to be signing up for tournaments? Those kinds of things, as well as summer.
So that again, like that's kind of up to the coaches. That's definitely something that could be happening right now, depending on.
I just don't want to get a coach.
No, yeah,
And then be like, well, we don't have a
Right.
schedule.
yeah.
And that's what this has to happen quickly.
Right.
This is, I know Ms. Diaz and I have even talked about this today about how to help expedite this process. Been back and forth with a series of what the question looks like. What is the letter that goes out to parents, to student? Like these are things that are going into place so we can get this right away. I personally spoke with a candidate even yesterday, and have some other people are just constantly filling out anybody that maybe we've missed as we move forward with it, but we have to move forward quickly so that, you know, any of the 25 days that are set in summer that can be used are being utilized effectively. And also then they can align with any tournaments that they feel fit in their vision for that program. And then we have all those pieces in place well in advance. Because I know there are some amazing tournaments that really profile our students and want that approved very soon. Like right at the beginning of the school year, we should be able to start talking about what those look like. Because I know they already have those set up.
Okay,
How about the physicals that were in freshman gym last summer or last year before school started? Are we gonna do something like that again?
I think those are good ideas. There's things we need, like that's part of our summer planning. Yes, we need to have those, but we need to talk through the summer plan. Like quick start, we have a lot of things that are available. Athletics, there are different options. Sometimes we have partnerships with, it's things I would like to do. Don't want to overcommit to it. And no doctors are available to do it and we don't do it, but we want to make sure that we try to support as much as possible.
And we should make sure we,
Yep.
if we do.
That's why I'm not trying to overcommit to it and say something, yeah, we're going to do that on August 10th and then not be able to.
Also,
Well,
for
and-
the new students, we had some party or
Yeah, we have, so
kickoff.
we have our freshman connection, we have quick start, then we have our back to school batch. Those are like three things that we've done
I
every
think
year.
that we should have at least fall sports, coaches represented at tables. So kids know where to go, that they can join these sports, that
Those are great points.
they know these sports exist and who the coach is and when practice starts.
What's the process?
Yeah, because I know most of these sports are gonna start in July. So how are the incoming freshmen
I
going
agree.
to even know that sports start in July and then they feel left out by school?
Mm-hmm.
They've already missed 3 weeks, everybody
Or the
knows each
tryouts.
other, they don't.
Well, that's where we need to include that in. So any athletic opportunities would go into our matriculation letters that we send on a regular basis, but we can partner with athletics to make sure that that's included of like, these are the summer windows that are coming up for freshmen and part of those matriculation letters that go out. So, and I can follow up with you on that to make sure I was working with Mr. Stuckey to make sure that all of those specific dates from all those coaches are included. But just like I've seen, there has to be that parent session, and I saw it with with our spring sports. There was a parent session with the coach, presentations around it, documentation was submitted. So we need to make sure all those things are done, and that's also communicated it's in the packet too. All the packets that go out, especially for incoming freshmen.
I have two questions. One, what is required to have a doctor here to perform those physicals? Like, do they have to be a level 2 volunteer? Do they have to be approved by CPS? Can Brad's wife do it?
That's what will happen. They're coming into this, like they're going out to the school, out to their locations. It's one coming into the school. They have to like reliable for anybody who's providing service here. So that's something that I definitely wanted to follow up on. If we had 3 doctors in our classrooms, they have to be vendors.
But do they have to get paid or can it be volunteer?
They get volunteers
So why do they then have to be vendors?
because of the background checks and like safety, like
So
as,
that-
as much as we assume that
So
is
that just
CPS
can't be a volunteer, level 1 volunteer position.
right. I have a grant for 2 murals I'm trying to get put up outside that it's coming from an external source that's paying them directly. They can't come on campus, touch these walls, or even begin to if they are not associated with a vendor. That's painting.
How did we do it last year? How did we set that up last
For this fall,
for the physicals?
I think was that this fall or was that 2?
No, that was last fall.
That was last fall.
I can't remember if that was that, and that was on.
Yeah.
I can't
It
remember.
was
the
in,
details.
the kids could come, like $25. Yeah.
I think
Was
that
it through
where we're
Weiss?
Vendoring it.
I think so.
Okay.
Was it
'Cause
what?
I've spoken to Coach
Through Weiss.
Ruttenberg about setting up another date. If that was the same, he has a connection at
It's the
Weiss
same group.
Hospital. Yeah.
My other question is the parent committee or whatever, parent sports committee, whatever it was, still meeting?
We have not. We would like to continue that.
So,
Who's in charge of that?
yeah,
Like, who's the head? Okay.
but isn't it driven by parents? I mean, like even in like the student life committee or the communications committee, right? Like I work with Mr. Stuckey and Miss Theus, but I drive that. You know, so I guess I'm asking you two who took it on, like, can you be more drivers of that rather than sitting back and waiting and like make it happen? I mean, if it's a parent committee, then it should be parent driven with in kind of collaboration with Mr. O, as I see it,
I agree.
versus, you know.
I will say, Peter and Ted have been very driven and they've been very helpful with setting things up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that
Mhm.
these things don't like fall
No,
off.
I don't
'Cause
want
I think
them-
it's very
want that,
easy
yeah.
for that to happen.
And it's also like where I was gonna piggyback on that just to say that I really think, especially with the athletic director being a full-time position now, and it was in the past, and obviously with Dr. Steinmiller and the APs, that like the school needs to drive the sports as opposed to the coaches that come in and come out, depending on certain sports. And so there needs to be a holistic program. And I think the parent committee is a great step forward because you can actually utilize the knowledge. And
Sure.
so, again, when I talk about the basketball program, it shouldn't just be built by somebody who's coming in, regardless of their background. It should be built by the parents inside the school building, by the athletic director, by the principal. And so I would say like leverage that group. And if there aren't basketball parents in that group, bring the basketball parents in because the program needs that kind of, community approach.
I was also told that CPS could possibly provide a physical therapist. You guys know anything about that?
They're still working on that. And that's, so I think it's important that we have somebody doing, just a trainer. I don't know if it's physical therapy. They were talking more of having trainers. That didn't come to, the athletic director did come out of, the trainers did not. And that became just, there aren't enough people doing it. Which I've found recently that there's new rules around and like if to be a trainer, you have to have ultimately a master. Like at the level of degrees you need to have to be able to do certain things is why there's a shortage, and it's actually happened in the last 10 years. And it's actually more like being a physical therapist, you make more money and set your own schedule. Where a trainer who works out, you have to have a master's degree, and there's not enough people to do it. So I think the idea needs to happen. And I would love for if the CPS can find, maybe my next question would be to them, if we find somebody, will you fund it? And maybe that may be the best angle for it instead of just waiting on them to approve it. But I know there is an extreme shortage out there, and this is at the university level too. They actually have a shortage of trainers.
The executive director of the public league wants every high school and CPS to have a within reason, because there are some high schools that probably don't need a trainer based on their enrollment numbers. We obviously do. It's just like Dr. Simler was saying with the shortage, all the trainers are coming from Athletico. So schools are very slowly getting a trainer based on enrollment, based on if they're close to a stadium, based on other factors, as the trainers become available exclusively through Athletico. So
How do we apply?
we don't. I mean, every school's applied essentially. It's just all the schools that have gotten one so far last year were all a school that was geographically located close to one of the CPS stadiums. So then the trainer could go from the school to the stadium, for all the events that the school wasn't involved in. So like Lane has a trainer, but the trainer stays at Lane Stadium. So every time there's a football game, he's working that, even if it's Lincoln Park playing Amundsen. It's the Lane trainer who's running out if somebody twists an ankle.
With football, because of concussion protocols, we're required. There's requirements from Chicago public schools to do certain.
Can we make it mandatory that assistant coaches and managers attend that workshop?
Sure.
And then I
Okay.
would suggest, go ahead.
I wanted to bring something up, and we went through 10 different other topics. But as far as the freshmen, incoming freshmen, on Tuesday I sent out an email to all the fall coaches, like, can you give me the information you would like us to share with all of the incoming freshmen? Because we're going to be sending out a communication hopefully next week with, here are all the fall sports offerings, with the coaches' information, how any summer things are going to happen, and then the general, here are all the requirements that you need to play sports in Illinois.
Great.
And I think I want to say 80% of them have sent me, some of them it's like 2 screens of stuff, and it's like, okay, if that's what you want, but.
And then I would suggest, because these coaches are paid so little and work so hard, I would suggest that there is a team parent who is responsible for rallying the other families to get their forms in and pay for whatever.
So that was the goal, one of the main goals for the parent athletic committee. We kind of got off to a rocky start, but for next school year, I'd like to have that all in place. So
with specific roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, because there's just little stuff like, I had one kid this year who turned in 3 physicals because he played 3 sports, and
You only need one, right?
So it's great that he's getting checked out by a doctor, but I mean,
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, that's what the handbook has to have all those things in it as a one-stop shop. We've been reviewing different schools that have these structures set up in it, what it looks like, so they can be consistent. I know that those have been shared, and they're going over to kind of come up with their own ideal version until the district has their consistent plans. Policies are there, just having it in one location with the handbook is beneficial. Lincoln Park High School has to be.
So yeah, even the public league doesn't have a handbook. It's like, here's this information, here's that information, here's this information, here's that.
Policies, but it's not.
Yeah.
So we're gonna, that has to be created. That's an expectation
Yeah.
I have of our athletic group to have that in place.
So every school has to basically reinvent the wheel.
No, you just have to know all the policies.
Yeah. But again, when they're in 30 different places, it's kind of hard for, a parent who's new to a high school that, well, I didn't know this. And it's like, I don't blame you, because look at the CPL website. So.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you very much. Jane.
Okay, so for Student Voice Committee, our last meeting of the year was it?
Yeah, just pull it towards you a little bit.
Okay.
Yep.
Our last meeting of the year was held on May 17th. We scheduled, as Dr. Steinman mentioned, we're one of the clubs being held over the summer, so we have a few dates from July 17th to August 3rd, which will be nice. We're continuing to work on creating a student panel for the teachers to directly ask questions to, and that's going to hopefully happen sometime before the start of next school year, probably in August, most likely. And then just welcoming the new reps, not to call one of them out. We have one of them in the audience tonight, which is very exciting.
Thank you for being here.
And he will be inaugurated in July. And then as for student life, just the majority of student finals are Monday and Tuesday, the 4th and the 5th. And I think a lot of students appreciate having a schedule, especially for finals. So I think even classes are on Monday and odd will be on Tuesday. And so it's like different time periods for each class.
That's great.
And by the way, I think Lath joined online
You did.
and Alexa had a family commitment.
Thank you very much. Late's speech at graduation was great. And I'd like to say that they hugged me better than my own kids, so. Okay, you're all set.
Yep.
Safety and security.
Hey, you know what? Can I just, I have to leave soon for,
Oh, I'm so sorry. You know what, JJ, I made a mistake.
no.
I did. Mistook this first. Yes. Do you want to have the vote?
I think, I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Okay, I'll do it right after this. Can we?
I think that's a long. Right?
Okay,
Right. Ms. Turkey, we have an issue.
Ms. Tookie,
okay.
I have to leave for
Okay, that's all
one of
right.
my, no, I don't want to rush you, but we have to vote on something and before we lose like a quorum, I
quorum?
want to
Okay.
just do that. Would you mind if we just did it for one moment? Thank you so much.
Jeff Cottons and,
With online.
We have cut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then that's fine, and we can go.
Yes,
Then-
I am still here.
Is Miss Brown still there?
she's there.
Okay, great.
We can all vote.
Go ahead.
Okay, then I guess we can just go ahead. I'm not needed for the vote.
Right.
Correct.
Can you go online or
Yeah, I
not?
can join online. Yeah.
Okay, then do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Ms. Turkey.
However, since I happen to have the floor, I want to take a moment to take over the meeting from Rebecca to offer her some thank you. Here we have for her service. This is her last LSC meeting because all of her 3 children graduated in 3 days from CPS. And we have a certificate of recognition for Rebecca's service to the LSC, which I'm grateful for. It has been a very dynamic year, and you have navigated many waters of many colors and speeds with and without bubbles. So thank you, Rebecca, for your.
Thank you.
And there's something else coming around. And, oh yes, you can. So while you can look at that. I don't know, is that open now or later? You do.
Whenever she wants.
Okay.
We also have other stuff to celebrate with, but we wanted to celebrate the other students
Yes.
since they're not here. So.
Yes. And you said Lath is online? Did we say Lath is online? Okay. Lath, are you really online?
I see him, I can.
Okay. So can you see us? I don't see him.
Trying to make.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Oh, hello.
Hey, Lath.
Hey,
How's it going?
good. How are you?
Congratulations, high school graduate.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I missed your speech, but I wanted to give a small one for you right now because in recognition of your service to Lincoln Park High School, we have this fancy, I don't know if you can bring it up close.
Oh, I can see it. I can see it.
So we have a pretty cool thing.
Oh, wow.
And I want to thank you. It's for faithful, whoops, read what it says. So not everyone can see it, but it's for faithful, credible, committed student service as a student representative, the Lincoln Park High School Local School Council. Of evidence of that contribution to the school community, this certificate is offered with appreciation and gratitude with every confidence in your future success. So thank you.
Thank you.
We also have a gift. We have a gift, Lath. We have a gift for you too. So you're gonna have to come back and retrieve it
All
at
right.
some point, or we can mail it.
We also have one. Alexa is not online, but we also have one for her, your partner in crime, and or to Jane. But you're still with us. So we just thank our students for their service. And we have one more a recognition we'd like to give. There is, I don't know if anyone comes to the school at 6:30 in the mornings most days. Is anyone in the, could you raise your hand if you tend to do that? Okay, right here, Miss Sandy Rosenthal. And for Miss Rosenthal, we have a community service award for recognition.
Well deserved, well deserved.
For extraordinary sustained commitment to the care and cleanliness of Lincoln Park High School and its adjacent Oz Park. We acknowledge your leadership and service for the betterment of our students, our school, and the entire local community. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so you come not only at 6:30 in the morning, but 4 in the afternoon.
You can have a
Thank you.
cupcake and you are staying on another year. So next year, come back for your gift.
If I can make a quick comment on behalf of our chair and our students, specifically because we've worked together for quite some time. And Rebecca, I just want to share with you, and I'm sure I'm sharing on behalf of several of us, that you've been an incredible colleague, and it's so rare to have a parent that is so dedicated inside the school building that is both dedicated on behalf of the parents and the students and the faculty and the administration. And I want to echo obviously what Peter said and thank you so much for all your dedication. It's really inspiring.
Thank you. I'll just say this real quick before we leave. I am so thankful to be part of this board. I don't know. I've been on other LSCs and this is the hardest working one by far. The time and commitment we all put in, and we disagree passionately and respect each other even more. And I'm just very thankful that all of you guys helped me along the way. So thank you very much.
Are you sure you don't want to move into the community?
Well, I can't see that I was going to get married to a parent of a freshman.
We have a community spot open.
What'd you say?
I said, we have a community spot open. You just move back in.
Okay, Mr. Keith.
Okay, and I'd also like to thank Rebecca very much too, from the teachers and from basically from the students for all that you've done. So sometimes quietly, but always keeping your eye out for stuff that very often people do not notice. So thank you. So this is the report from the IB. April and May IB testing went very well. Thanks to Teresa McCormick and Matt Leo and Vivian Hernandez helping with proctoring and setting up and taking down exam chairs, and especially with Veronica Hurt, because she would be here at, I mean, she has a lot of masters or whatever you want to call them, bosses driving around, something, because there's the sports groups that come and go. Maybe they're here, maybe they're not here. You know, the teachers, us, the people who use the gyms. I mean, you know, it's really monumental. And then, of course, staffing of janitors and helpers is very spotty at CPS at best. So then a number of students had applied and been applied for and granted extended time for their IB exams. IB exams are longer in general than AP, but they do spread them out over 2 or sometimes 3 days. That have applied for extended time. The IB exams are less rushed than AP exams, so the amount of time granted is usually it's usually about 25% instead of say 100% or something like that. There are almost no multiple choice in IB exams. Mr. Leo oversaw the students with extended time. Ms. Rucker, along with me, worked out an AP IB schedule, which some of you might have noticed in Dr. Steinmiller's weekly newsletter. It was kind of color coded. And so as the weeks went on, it got a little bit shorter. Dr. Steinmiller authorized Marilyn Lugo, one of the clerks, to arrange for subs to help with proctoring for both AP and IB exams. Vivian Hernandez, who's the assistant for the IB coordinator, sends the exams out to the scanning center or to Cardiff, Wales each day via FedEx or DHL. We can't send them all at once. We have to send them out each day. So it's rather a massive undertaking. In addition, IB frequently sends inspectors unannounced to be sure that the exam protocols are being followed. Nobody came the first day, so we were relieved. Then the second day, about 8:15, Vivian quietly snuck over and announced that the inspector was here, but was taking a while. They were taking a while to have her get in at the entrance door. She had to have pictures taken, etc. She inspected everything from beginning to end, including the storage of our exams and the conditions in which the students were given extended time and how we handled bathroom breaks. Each bathroom has to be inspected prior to testing each session and prior to each student using the facility. So the students use the bathrooms one at a time, have to be walked to the bathrooms individually by a staff member. The inspector was here for about 4 hours and we did an exit interview. And nicely, the next day we were emailed a perfect score. So that's really good. You don't always get those. So it's good. A 5-minute summer math program for students coming into the IB diploma program in grade 9 is going to start Monday, June 12th, and will end Friday, July 16th. Finally, this is back in full swing after COVID. We have done this kind of a program since the IB began here in 1982, but COVID put a bit of a damper on it. Students are placed for the math with those who know the same math and who need work on the same math topics. Some are in an 8 to 10 group, others in a 10-15 to 12-15 group. Teachers are available for tutoring afterwards if needed. And there's also breakfast and lunch provided. It has always been, this summer math program has always been one of the things students look back fondly on because it's their first time getting to the school, kind of getting even some of the kids coming on public transportation, getting used to doing that and beginning to make friends. They get to know other students, get used to the school and Lincoln Park and Oz Park, and commuting for those who commute on public transportation or for parents who end up taking people. In the diploma program, students do CAS projects and activities during the school year in grades 11 and 12 over the summer. IB requires that students engage in creative activities, physical activities, and direct service to others. Ms. Lovingood, who's chair of the English department, works with rising juniors and seniors, helping them select activities that will make up their individual CAS portfolios and then verifies that theirs are complete. This particular graduating group has done very well. And Ms. Lovingood gleefully informed me that everyone had successfully finished actually early this year. So we're, again, very pleased. Some of the teachers at the Chicago Public Schools provides money for teachers to participate in IB training. And some teachers are participating in IB trainings, and central office has arranged for coordinators to participate in the IB annual regional conference in Toronto. This takes place the last week in July, the 21st, the 27th to the 31st, and CPS is paying for all of it. I've always attended. Friends of Lincoln Park has helped out with registration fees in the past. I personally find this conference very helpful to easily stay caught up on new developments and continue friendships with people from all over the world that I've known for many years. And to meet new people and to find out about new materials that are available for teachers. Kind of a nice consequence of COVID has been the emergence of virtual real-time workshops for teachers. And a few teachers are taking advantage of them during the year and over the summer. Okay. So that's it. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Okay, thank you.
Great work on the IB testing.
Yes, thank you so much. JJ. Sorry.
Woohoo!
Finally.
JJ.
I'll be brief. I don't have a whole lot. Good evening, everybody. Beck, I want to thank you for your service and the work you have put into supporting our school. I've learned a lot from you over these years and watching the work that you do. So I want to say thank you. I appreciate you.
That's nice. Thank you.
Dr. Steinmiller talked a little bit about the work that we plan on doing with the community, with our kids. It was a really interesting meeting that we had. We're working on some big things coming up. I like the talk that we had. We got an opportunity, myself, Ms. Shotwell, also Mr. Mario. We walked around today. We had a chance to stop by Target, stop by Starbucks. We stopped by 7-Eleven, talking to some of the personnel that's in there, introducing ourselves. We're working on building relationship. Relationship and community is really, really big. With the help of Ms. Sepulveda, she was the one that put this together. We can't take the credit for the work that she's doing and the outreach that she's putting together for the community. I think we're going to be really making some changes. Once our kids get to know what's happening and what's going on, and knowing some of the people that's working in these places, we'll be able to grow. We'll be able to connect with them quickly about what's happening and what's going on. I always say it takes a village. So once our students understand that we're working together, it's less likely some things that has been happening in the past school years. We're trying to put a stop to that to the best of our ability. So that's a big deal, and I'm really excited about that work that we're going to be doing going forward. We also plan having those individuals come speak at our grade levels assemblies. I think that'd be a big deal where our kids can put a name with a face and know who these people are that's working in these businesses and working in these establishments around the community. So I'm definitely looking forward to that part of it. We have great kids. We just have a few kids that's a little bit off track. If they can get away with something, they're gonna try to get away with it. But again, once they see us working together, we're gonna be doing some good things with the businesses in our community. I don't have the data on our suspensions and our detentions right now, but what I can tell you in regards to the eye test, our intervention, well, I should say our realignment room is doing really good work with our kids. The check-ins, we have even got to the point where our kids just want to be in that space.
We need a new realignment room.
Yeah, at some point we may, because they feel how they feel for whatever reason. Sometimes they want to take a break. They ask Mr. Mario, can they step out of class and do that work? It's been beneficial with our seekers who have their one-on-one. We have some students that's struggling with being in classes, so they'll use that space as well. So it's just not for in-school suspensions and things like that. It's just an open space for our kids to get a break from the norm. So we're gonna put more structures in place. I think we got a lot of work to do. I think we're moving in the right direction, but we still have a lot of work to do, but it's positive. It's positive, and we're really engaging with our kids. Right now, I would say it's okay, but it's always room for improvement. So I'm happy about that work. Tom G, along with Ms. Walker, we're working on establishing our crisis team. That's still a work in progress. We have to reschedule our meeting due to some absences from some of those members that's a part of that team. So we'll be meeting next week to gather the information that we need. So when things are happening, we move in a fashion to make sure that we're supporting our students or anyone that's in a crisis. We know all the steps and things that we need to do. So we'll be working on that. What else do I have? Our vape detectors and installation. I'm not sure where we at with that. Will you be able to speak to that, Dr. Stein?
They're starting trainings on it, giving us access. Will be giving us access to like a dashboard so that I saw it in action. And actually, as I was going through the training, it was like, please go to the second floor girls' bathroom on the walkie-talkie because it's that instant. And so it's pretty neat. And so they have
What is the consequence for vaping in a bathroom?
we felt like code of conduct. I mean, it's not, you're not gonna get suspended for it.
Really?
On the first.
Yeah.
No, the way we would handle that, we would take all the necessary steps, given the student due process. We may not know who exactly, it may be 2 or 3 kids in that bathroom or the restroom at that time, but we would give each kid due process. What I can tell you in regards to our students that vape, when we do find out who it are or we catch them and we have those conversations, they give it up, we make those phone calls home, it'll be a consequence. We can't say they stop, but in that moment, we address the concern and we try to work with the child in regards to letting them having those interventions, what the vape do to the body, all those different things. If a kid let us know that they're going through some struggles at home, they feel as though they need it. You know, we have our BHT team that we depend on, our social workers, our counselors. So when those things happen, we just make sure we're following student rights responsibilities and making sure we're giving each child due process for any school infraction. So we're not punitive at first. We want to figure out what's happening and what's going on and why is the need to go in the restroom and vape. And it's a problem. It's a problem for all school level. Also, I believe college students just period is tough because it's easy access to get these things. So we need a whole lot of help in trying to, not allow our kids to get a hold of that stuff.
Are they?
Do the detectors detect like cigarette vaping and marijuana vaping?
I'm not quite sure how they all work.
It's very big brother. And so I believe actually that they're air quality detectors as well. Like they will not release to schools what it's picking up. The only thing that's being released to the school is nicotine. So the vapes that were going off in the bathroom were not have THC in it. It was just vapes.
Okay.
So there's
That
a way
makes me
to
feel a little better.
like the difference of it. So there's like different dash. I'm just learning it, so I don't want to stand new to it. But there's ways to differentiate what is going on. So if it was like cigarette smoke, I guess it would. You would look for it. I mean, I guess that's what you would help you know what you're looking for. And if it was THC, then we would know based on what is indicated.
Is it in the locker rooms as well, or just bathrooms?
I don't know the locker rooms. That's such a good question. Let me.
Can it be in the locker rooms too?
I don't know the. I know it has to be a certain height. And that's why you've seen some of the bathroom like these long poles coming down, like 8 feet, 10 feet, or something. There's a certain height it needs to be. And our locker rooms are pretty tall. I'm not making. I need to look. I actually just haven't. So check.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a quick comment to JJ. So appreciative for all the work that you do. Honestly, it's incredible. I want to just point out there's a meeting I think 2 years or so ago, Amy and I were at, and Dr. Steinmiller with neighborhood groups, of which there seemed to be a stalemate over a period of time, at least the neighborhood organizations were describing, between whether the school was going to invite the community in or whether the community was going to invite the school in. And hearing about what you just described with the businesses is multiple years of work that you've been doing and others with Ms. Sepulveda and Mr. G and Dr. Steinmiller. So I just want to commend you all because that is no easy feat, and it didn't just start today by any stretch. So thank you so much.
I appreciate you, Brett. Thank you so much. We got a lot of work to do, but I was being here as long as I've been and to have that opportunity. One of the members from the business was just like thankful and want to get the word out to other owners or managers of these businesses so we can come together and have those conversations. So I'm really looking forward to that, but I appreciate you. Thank you. Lastly, we going to work on rethinking our school structures in regards to our off-campus lunch, our transitioning, and then also working with our gym teachers and how we are supporting our gym classes. For those who don't know it, we have our gym classes outside when the weather is warm or fall. So sometimes our students, meet outside or wait outside. We want to do a better job of monitoring the building, monitoring our students' transitions. I know there's been concerns about tardies and cuts, making sure we know where our students at and knowing where they're supposed to be at. This is the first full year we was able to really see what our school looked like. with the 12 security officers that we have, with also the additional intervention specialists that we have, also add additional social worker to our team. So SEL is really booming. We're really working real hard to build that team. So I strongly feel as though come next year, because we have all these pieces together, we've been able to work together one full school year. We'll be able to do a much better job of putting those structures in place to support our students. We know off campus is a really big deal, and it's been a struggle since I've been here, and I'm sure before we got here, it's been a struggle with off campus. So that's going to be one of our biggest focuses coming up the next school year, focusing on that, knowing where our children are and they being where they're supposed to be at, and administering the proper consequences and connecting with parents and families to make sure we all on board with supporting our kids, so we can bring our cuts down, bring our targets down. Really don't know those numbers right now, but I can say they are high, especially when they get close to the last week or two of school. Kids feel as though they're done. They have done everything that they need to do. But we just got to do a better job of working on that. So that's something we plan on doing next school year. So that's pretty much all I have, unless anyone have a question for me.
JJ, I have an idea. For the merchants who are lion friendly, I think it'd be really great if we had a little sticker that we could give them that say Lions welcome here. So that the kids know that they need to behave, but they're not gonna get booted out just for being students. And then if we could feature them either in the Friends of website or our newsletter every week that just says, hey, support 7-Eleven, they are lion friendly. This is where they are, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's something Dr. Steinmiller did mention to the members. Also, one of our security officers had a really good idea, Mr. Norman. I'm not sure how that would work. I think we need to build a relationship going forward in regards to that. Maybe the security that works in these establishments check our students' IDs before they enter their building. 7-Eleven is a smaller entity, so they may let 3 or 4 kids in at a time before they purchase. I know places like Target, they're a whole lot bigger, but we're going to work with them and get them some support and guidance where they can connect with us and know who our kids are. So it's a work in progress. We got a lot of ideas, a lot of hope, optimistic.
Yeah, I just want to be able to give back to those who are kind to our kids.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I got
We have it was in the newsletter. The students have put together a Lion Pride One School One Community poster contest. So a lot of students, and so there's actually 4 designs that we're going to have multiple versions that go out to businesses. Businesses have already received one-sheeters that have all our contact information. So that's a part that's on the flip side of it, but they have the direct line, Theus, like my office line, like they have how to reach to all that. Even if they don't have that in the window, all these businesses know how to get in touch.
Yeah, I just want to say again, to echo what Brad said, like this is massive, massive work that has been needed in this community for so long. And it's finally happening. So thank you, JJ, and your team and Dr. Steinmiller for like making this happen, because I think it will hopefully make our students feel more comfortable in this community. And it just brings things together as the high school is the hub. So awesome work.
Yes, thank you, JJ.
I appreciate you, Shannon. I'll just leave with this. When we did talk to the members or the community members, I should say, somebody always want a discount. So I do know when staff is moving throughout or they step at 7-Eleven or whatever it may be, for the most part, our kids get in line. We had an opportunity to really see that today. So, we're going to ask staff when they go out for lunch or whatever it may be, introduce themselves, to the cashier, whoever it may be, say something to some of the kids. It'll go a long way. But as I mentioned, we got a lot of work to do, and we're gonna keep it going. I appreciate the kind words you guys have said. I'll definitely pass that on to the team.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Ms. Zemnick, late reported that there is a vape detector in the men's locker room.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm assuming there's one in the women's as well.
Late report.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, community relations.
I know the individual rep who is in charge of the committee is not stepping down. So we're just gonna have to regroup. But in the meantime, the school is doing a great job. So
So you're basically saying that you have done nothing.
I've basically done nothing. Basically done nothing. No, I mean, like the team internally with Ms. Sepulveda and obviously is JJ. It is a much more organized effort that has happened this year than in prior years, and so I can just sit back and enjoy the amazing work.
It's being done.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Finally, do we have enough people online? It's the principal evaluation. Let me just make sure. Panelists. We have 2.
You have Dave and Sonia. That's enough. Dave, Sonia, and Lace.
Well.
Oh, no.
Students can't vote.
We have enough.
Peter's online as an attendee.
We have enough. We have 7.
Can you move Peter? Yeah, he's an attendee. Okay, so we have enough.
Super.
Everybody good?
Mm.
I make a motion to approve the principal evaluation that was discussed and agreed upon in closed session last night.
I second.
All in favor? I want to make
Aye.
sure we. Okay, so Mr. Khan said aye.
Indeed. Thank you.
I just, can I say something?
Yes.
I just want to explain to the community the process. Oh,
You want to have the vote or do you want to table it?
no, the vote.
Okay. And Miss Brown?
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. Chalmers?
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous.
I think I don't know if I vote or I abstain, but it's one of the.
You,
Yeah.
I think
I
you
don't think I
abstain.
vote, right?
We'll figure it out.
I think you abstain.
Yeah.
I don't think you can vote on your.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So just so the community understands sort of what the process was, what happened was, Peter Chalmers chaired the principal evaluation committee. Surveys went out to the teaching staff, the parents, as well as there was a student SVC survey that we looked at and took into account. We also interviewed several members of the staff just to get qualitative data on Dr. Steinmiller's performance based on the competencies that we have to rate him on. All the survey data was reviewed. We met in closed session last week. We spent probably 5 or 6 hours scoring and then discussing and then rescoring if we felt like that was necessary. We presented Dr. Steinmiller with our initial evaluation for him to then provide us with a self-evaluation. So he then responds to our evaluation with an evaluation in response to what we gave him. Last night, we met in closed session with Dr. Steinmiller. We went through each competency, and each competency has several line items in which we're required to rate him on. We discussed items in which we were not cohesive on in terms of what he thought he deserved and we thought he deserved. Then we went back as an LSC without Dr. Steinmiller present. We went through each question in which there was a discrepancy and determined whether or not we thought those numbers should shift and change. At that point, we re-voted. We brought Dr. Steinmiller back into the room and discussed with him again why we may or may not have made those changes. And then that was the end of the evaluation.
And then you have to vote on it in.
And then we have to vote in open session. Obviously, it's a personnel document, so that's not shared with the community. But I just wanted the community to understand how thorough the process was in this situation. Not all LSCs do it this way. It's sort of at your discretion how you want to conduct an evaluation. The LSC on its own could just do a principal evaluation without even reaching out to any member. So kudos to Peter, who's left but might still be on, in terms of how thorough this evaluation, I believe, was conducted. And many of us have sat on several other LSCs and really felt like this was a very fair process. And I commend this team for how we worked together and talked through things and disagreed respectfully. And to Dr. Steinmiller for sitting and receiving all the feedback, across the board. So thank you for that, everybody who worked on this. It was really.
I do want to say one thing. The competencies that we evaluate Dr. Steinmiller on almost perfectly mirror the questions in the surveys.
Correct.
So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're evaluating him on. And then I also want to say that this is a year-long process. We start the timeline and we agree on the process going forward. The subcommittee meets usually monthly. It is, I'm not joking, it's like a part-time job. And I had it last year and Peter had it this year, and he did phenomenal. And I'm so proud of everybody on the committee, and I'm proud of how fair and reasonable everybody was. And yeah, just very thankful that it's over. Okay. Good. Next thing, go ahead.
Hey, this is Peter. Can I make a quick comment?
Yes.
Just want to reiterate what was said, but also thanks to all of the teachers, ILT members, PPLC members, PPC members, staff, etc., for taking time to meet with us individually and provide your feedback, as well as all of those in the community, parents, staff, teachers, students who provided their feedback via the surveys. All that data was really important, and I know it took time to put it down. So just want to thank you for that role.
Thank you, Peter. Okay. Communications, Ms. Zemnick.
We haven't met again. So that.
Great report. Moving on to facilities.
Yeah, I'll just say in general, and I'll hand it over to Dr. Steinmiller. We're working on setting up a meeting date with the school year rapidly closing to see if our faculty members can join. Otherwise, it will be, shortly thereafter the school year ends.
Yeah, it'll probably, I meet every Monday with facilities, our engineer and other, such as that's where the fire hydrants, that was one of our line items. So I was happy to see that was addressed. So we're constantly addressing facilities within those items, big and small. Very likely will not be having an additional facilities meeting. Maybe the soonest would be maybe on Wednesday. I have just received communication to go to mandated restraint training Monday and Tuesday based off of some of the new CPS ISB communication. So principals are mandated to go to the training on Monday for 16 hours. So that's what I'll be doing Monday and Tuesday. And I apologize for not being at school the final 2 days of finals. It is mandatory, non-negotiable. It even says I cannot try to propose a different date.
Wow.
So
It's like great planning.
Yeah, as usual. Okay, you guys can talk about how you're going to replace all the leaving LSC members.
I'm sorry, if I could just ask a question really quickly. So we are trying to have a facilities meeting on Wednesday of next week, or we are
I would not count
punting and not having one?
I would not count on it. I will. Let me talk to Brad after this meeting and reach out to you and see what we would have available that would work. But
yeah, it would be nice. I think, in my opinion, it would be nice to talk about plans for the facilities over the summer, especially knowing that the custodial staff has a big task of cleaning everything and sometimes redoing floors of classrooms. Just there's a lot of opportunities with no students in the building to tighten up a lot of facilities things. And I think that to just punt and try to not have one before sort of at least vocalizing and making some official plans for the summer I think that's a disservice to the facility that we're currently in.
all right, let me push for Wednesday and see what we can do.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Mr. Cottons.
Okay, discuss the vacancy process.
I'll do we do have a non-teaching staff vacancy, the process for that. Communication will go out tomorrow through the CPS process for a vacancy is communication will go out tomorrow to staff. By the end of the day, Monday, teachers could sign up if they're, or non-teaching staff can sign up if they're interested in filling the vacancy. Then there would be a poll that would most likely be on Wednesday. The names are listed, why they want to be the person on that Monday. Then by Wednesday, there would be a poll, or Thursday at the latest. The poll then is just checking who you would prefer, or if it's one person, there just needs to be a single vote. But we have to go through a poll. The poll is then sent to the board, and the board determines whether that person will be accepted in that position. Then in their June meeting, they would acknowledge that person as the official LSC member. So then in the July organizational meeting, they can participate.
Okay, and I think Peter, Peter, are you still there?
They're not.
He might have jumped
Oh,
off.
he's out of a panelist. Oh no, he's.
Okay, does anybody want to talk about the process for replacing parents? LSC member.
Did-
Peter started the process. Do you want me to just talk about it?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't talked to him, so I don't know what he's.
Okay, so,
Good for him.
yes, so, a communication will go out to the parents, about, the process, and the process will be similar to this. People, submit an essay, application, resume type thing about why they should get the job, and then, unpaid job. And then,
Because they lost their mind? Is that?
certify being crazy. And then the LSC will invite those candidates in for a forum type deal. The LSC will then go into closed session and decide who they're appointing to my seat, which has one more year, right? Yep. And then they'll come back in open session and vote. And I think that's it.
And it is not the position of chair,
It is
just to
not-
be clear.
You're replacing one of 6 parents on the LSC, not chair. The chair will be decided in the organizational meeting. Okay? Good? And Peter might have a clarification, but that's in general the process. And that will also be a communication in the newsletter, as well as the email. Okay. LSC organizational meeting.
Wait, is that, sorry, Chair, is that also the structure for the community role?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We also need to vote on the process for filling these positions. So, we don't.
Yeah, we do.
Do we? Oh, yeah, because Jane can vote.
Yeah, this is full through.
Okay.
Yeah,
And Dr. Shumno, yeah, okay. I make a motion to approve the vacancy process for filling the positions based on what was discussed here today, in general.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. We are discussing the organizational meeting. That's when everybody comes on that has been elected or appointed. And you have to set a date for that organizational meeting. I think it's in July. Is that correct?
Yeah, the process for this, there's one of two, and this is a more effective one. If we don't determine a date at this meeting, then I determine one, and then the principal determines one in July. Because we're all here, we can also look at our calendars and we can make this work, and then which we can then vote unanimously, or not unanimously, but vote as a group on a date that would work within July for everybody's schedules without me having to try to find you to find a date. So this is the preferable way of doing it, and it's more of a LSC process than a principal centered process. And thinking in our just natural trend of things, July would make it has to be it's supposed to be a July meeting. So within the first week or 2 of July would be preferable, but if it doesn't work, we may be able to put it the 3rd, but that kind of bumps things further down the road. This is an organizational meeting. The intent and purpose of the organizational meeting is to organize. I did ask LSC Relations though about the option to be able to vote, like to have that process for a new candidate for any available vacancies, because this will ultimately be our next meeting. And we can add that in. It is not, their wording was, it is not preferred or recommended, but you can. And so we need to organize that meeting where it'll also be where we would hear from the people who are interested.
I agree.
And at that point, we would go into closed session. We would make our ultimately our recommendation to the board that this would be the person to fill the position. And then the board would then acknowledge we have to put everything to the board
Before their meeting.
before their district meeting to approve LSC members.
For a parent?
For parents and communities.
Really?
That's then the
That's
process.
my understanding.
Yeah, nobody's official until they're
Signed off on.
dubbed, knighted.
I don't know why they signed off on me.
I've yet, I don't know if anybody's not being accepted, but what we want to, the earlier we do it, make sure we can get on any potential agendas.
What'd you say?
You ran.
Oh, yeah, that's right. But I think.
This
there's
year
some-
this year everybody ran, but then it's everybody runs and you submit, we submit all of that to the board. So even all the scoring goes to the board.
Right.
So, so what we need to do is determine that date. So look at your calendars right now.
Is there usually it's like, it has to be July blank to July
Yes,
blank.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
it's
it's 1 to 14.
1 to 14, okay.
Hey, guys.
I propose the week of the 10th because I think people might be traveling the week of July 4th, given where it falls.
Mr. Cottons, do you have something to say?
No, that was me. I have to
late.
go right now, but I just want to say thank you to everybody.
Oh,
Had a
Thanks,
great
Lake.
time on the LSC. Thank you guys for all the support. And I hope it's as fun next year as it was this year.
We're gonna miss you.
You're going to go on to do amazing things,
Yes.
Lane. So please keep in touch.
Yeah, and thank you guys for the gift. I really appreciate it.
Um,
Bye,
see you, man.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
don't forget to come get your gift.
I won't.
Here it is.
Bye.
I have cupcakes for you too, but they'll probably be stale by then.
Is there a time of the day, a day or a time of the day? Now, this is our summer, the 10th through the 13th is Summer Leadership Institute for Chicago Public Schools. I don't know what that looks like. So my requirements that time, we have it. I'm not asking you to speak, but if you could look in the calendar and tell me.
Do not speak.
I mean, I would recommend, we have a pattern of Thursdays. Thursdays seem to work. I mean, if that's something that works for us. I'll look and see if I'm required to be at something on Thursday at any certain time by using my psychic intuition and also looking in that direction.
We still have an LSC meeting that Thursday, right?
No,
No,
Or no? Oh, that's off.
no.
Okay.
That can't happen until you have an
we have to
organizational
set
meeting.
the
So
schedule for
all
the year.
School year 24 LSC meetings do not exist.
Okay.
At this
Right.
point.
So
This is
yeah.
our last LSC meeting for 2023.
So I would say like, if possible, if we do the 4 PM, on that 13th, because it's, I already have it blocked off in my calendar. If that works for others, depending on what you said about the leadership training.
That meeting is typically a bit shorter too.
It's very short.
Yeah,
I can make,
I'm
we will
okay
have,
with it.
you will have an ILT, like, I should be able to make Thursday, the 13th flexible. You say, did you say you were available?
Yeah, that date and time work for me. Thank you.
What was the
So,
specific?
yeah, so July 13th at 4 PM, our typical LSC time.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, the building will officially be closed, but I can open it up. So if you wanted to do it earlier, we could.
I'm reading online and Peter is saying that he can meet anytime between July 5th and 14th for the organizational meeting. So it does seem like the 13th would fall in what works for him too. Just relaying a message.
Are there limitations to doing it earlier than 4?
A job.
Oh, no, I just
Yeah,
curious.
just oh, yeah.
Good.
I second what Amy was saying.
4 o'clock on the 13th.
Is that something we vote on? Yeah.
Yes, we do.
I'd like to make a motion to have our organizational meeting on the 13th of July at 4 PM for the 24-25
Second.
school year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then.
I'm sending an invite.
You're up for the economic interest form.
In my office is the economic interest form. All returning LSC members are required to fill this out, or you will not be able to participate, or you just have to get harassed and turn it in later. But it is in my office, so all returning LSC members, Ms. Collins, you can get it tomorrow. And so I just need to have that filled out to submit to them. That is it.
Okay. Back to public participation. Does anyone want to say anything?
My name is Melinda Stinnett. I teach English here, film, sometimes create. Actually, I've taught everything, including IB. The only thing I haven't taught is AP. I have been here since January of 1993. I think that makes me second only to the illustrious Marion DeTookie. And I love Lincoln Park. And I'm upset about a lot. I've been upset, not just with this. This is a hard school to program. I will say that. It was hard for Mr. Todd. It was hard for McMaster. It was hard for, who else do we have here? Mr. Mason, Miss Wright. It's a hard school. We have like 6 schools within a school. So I get all of that. However, teachers, and I haven't talked to everyone, but teachers are concerned about a phone policy. And this summer would be a great time to get that together because it's a problem. Phones are interfering with student learning. It has been proven that they are addictive. The dopamine rush teachers just cannot fight the dopamine rush that they get from these phones. If it's out and off and away, yeah, it comes out because they're not wearing watches. I think I'm going to look for some from some watch company to give them all watches so they can see the time. If they know, I don't know, maybe they don't even know the old way to tell time, but they could get digitals, right? So it's been proven that it's addictive. We can't compete against it. We also need to protect our students because they are becoming addicted to these. For the life of me, I can't imagine why we allow them to walk around with this little invention in their hand that gets them right to social media where they can be cyberbullied at any moment during the day. And that just puts them just completely out of educational jurisdiction. They're just gone. They're gone. And this has to change. And it negatively affects their education. And I saw it up close and personal when we were doing research papers this year. My students do a slideshow as their rough draft. That's what we call it, as the rough draft. And I made a firm policy. I don't even want to hear a phone vibrate. You don't look at it. They're all doing feedback for their peers. They all have to do this presentation, and they were amazing. They did it. They were amazing, and they gave great feedback. And that can only be done if you're paying attention, not if you're being distracted with a phone. We would also like to see a tardy policy implemented consistently with consequences, as well as an attendance policy with integrity and consequences. I'm not saying we expel them, but, well, case in point, I had a student that was maybe absent on Thursday. I think she cut my class on Friday, but she was at prom. That used to not happen. And if we all get in lockstep, I think we can help them. They are better off in class than being tardy. And if they don't have a phone, maybe they won't have something else they want to do. Of course, you already know about the vaping that goes on in the bathrooms and how they roam around and go, like a male teacher will go in the bathroom. I just know about my male students in my class. None of the girls evidently, no, I don't know. But I do know about some of the male students in my class, and they were coming into class quite high. And then that can be disruptive for so many reasons. However, we have this policy where they can take the pass and go to the bathroom anytime they want, and then they're gone for long periods. I can't leave my students, but I have held the door open and kind of looked out in the hallway. I have a vestibule, so it's a little hard for me to look out in the hallway. It's because of the way the stairs are designed. But they're not even at the closest bathroom, and I know they've been up to vaping. And then I have some male colleagues that say they go in the bathroom and the boys will leave in a big group, and then he'll go down to the other bathroom downstairs because there's no soap in the bathroom, and he runs into the same group and he reports them and he tracks them down, and I don't know that anything's ever happened. And actually don't have a lot. Maybe they need to drink less. I've never seen a generation that is so hydrated in my life, and they all have to go to the bathroom all the time. Maybe we had to like manage ourselves when I was in high school, right? You didn't get to go to the bathroom anytime you felt like it. So that is an issue. And chronic truancy. I have students that are on my roster. I thought sure they were going to be dropped. And suddenly I'm getting an email from a student I've never seen. And he wants to come in and present his slideshow for me on my lunch period. And, or he's trying to arrange it. I don't even, it's just ridiculous. So teachers are very nervous about programming, as you know. We, of course, are hoping for the best. And then the other thing I wanted to say was we need a teacher's lounge. We don't have one. They just kept downsizing us throughout the years. But our job is intensely stressful. We have 148, if we're lucky, only 148 students. It's enough to just manage them through the day, grade their papers, work on their special situations. And then we get nasty emails from parents quite frequently, too frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And that can really set you off on your day and you've got to go back to class. Hostile, abusive, it shouldn't happen. These things shouldn't be happening. But at least if we had a safe space, we're all about SEL, right? What about SEL for the teachers? Because we're the ones, I always say, we're the cow. If you don't feed the cow well, you're going to get sour milk. And we're the ones teaching. And we just want some support. We want the basics. We need support. I'm done.
Thank you very much.
I know I'm not supposed to respond, but
No.
okay.
Anybody else? Anybody online?
Look real quick.
I don't see anybody.
I did not either. So.
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have cupcakes in celebration of Rebecca. It was really for the grads, but we'll give it to you since they didn't show up.
Thank you.
Wow, the one time I'm not there. The one time
Right,
I'm
me
not there.
too.
And there's cupcakes. You gotta be kidding me.
Exactly.
I'm just kidding. You all have a good evening. Thank you.
Good night.
That's the meeting. Okay.